Guys, listen up. As you get older, the best way to continue to look young, exuberant, and vibrant is to continue to take care of your skin. That's why I'm excited to have Tiege Hanley as a sponsor of today's video. You heard me talk about them before, and you're going to continue to hear me talk about them because I believe in their products and the positive impact that they have on every man's life. Tiege Hanley makes taking care of your skin so easy. They provide you with all the products you need and nothing that you don't. Every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. Lapeef family, I must admit, skincare wasn't always something I always focused on, but since I started using this system, I've seen improvements in the way my skin looks and feels. And you don't have to take my word for it. They have over 5,000 5-star reviews on their website from satisfied customers from around the world. I recommend you start with the level 1 system, which comes with all the basics: a daily face wash, an exfoliating scrub, an AM moisturizer, and a PM moisturizer. In addition to amazing skin, members of Tiege Hanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off retail price, the ability to customize your box, pause or cancel at any time, and free US shipping. And because Tiege Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers a great deal. Just click that first link in the description and you'll get 30% off the first box plus the free gift. Seriously, that's an amazing deal. Even though it's too early, as I often say, it's never too late. Click that link and get started today.
family. Welcome to King Talk. Let me go and introduce the crew. We got Trigger Mike.
You know, wait till you fall in love.
We got Sweeney, Sir Hale, Luis, Humble Dad, Hink in the basement, Stay Smooth, Sean Antonio, and myself, and Lapeef JR. Welcome to King Talk on Lapeef Network. What's going on, family? What's going on? How y'all doing?
Man, doing good, man.
What's going on, black people?
What's happening? What's happening?
What's good, gentlemen?
How you feeling, man? How y'all feeling tonight?
All right. I'm having some video issues. I'm going to troubleshoot throughout the stream. One of my cords just took a L. So I'm going to see if I can locate another one real quick. I'm going to get it started. Welcome to King Talking to Lapeef Network. If you guys haven't already, make sure to hit the like button. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel. Shout out to the sponsor again, Teach Channeling Uncomplicated Skin for Men. 30% off along with a free gift. Make sure you guys click that link and get that Teach pack. So make sure we get our skin in order, man. You see what we got in the chat. Shout out to all the Green Gang. Be sharp. I see you. Miss Parker, back to the basics. We always get a lot of women that tap into King Talk. They want to know what the men are thinking on particular topics, and we welcome you guys. Towards the end of the show, I have been having women call in via phone number. So if any women are watching and they might want to chime in, feel free to call in and pick our brains for about 10 minutes or so. With that being said, let's go ahead and get this show started. You ready, gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
Ready to get it?
All right, here we go. Our first topic of the night is, and what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your soul? Let me go ahead and play the clip to give you guys context.
Youth, I was impressed with what you have. As I age, I'm more curious as to how you got it. And not from a shady standpoint, because if you're doing your thing, more power to you. For the most part, if you ask a person how they've gotten to the level that they're on, those that have demonstrated integrity and hard work along their journey have absolutely no problem sharing with you certain details and aspects of their process. However, those that shy away from process information and only want to flaunt the result, most of the time they know they didn't get it right. There are many people that know the way that they obtain their level of success came with great compromise, to the degree that not only do many of them not want to discuss in detail their process, they want to forget what they did. So if it cost you your soul, was it really the accomplishment of a goal? I'm not judging anybody. I just know the tricks of the devil that he will utilize to convince someone to demoralize themselves to obtain material things that ultimately fade away. People need to understand that God blesses and Satan gives out stuff too. The only difference is when God gives you something, you can keep it, but the devil is a repo man. Shoes and food.
All right. What do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? I'll go ahead and go with Luis first. What are your thoughts about it, sir?
Man, that's a very powerful thing to ask. I would say that fast money comes with slow problems over time, and I know that a lot of us, a lot of young men, and a lot of people across the world are always trying to aspire to self-develop and get their money and obviously uplift themselves from whatever socioeconomic situation that they're in. However, I think that the journey, you find more and more joy and more purpose in the journey, right, rather than the end result. The end result is always going to be there. As long as you charted it out, you'll always get there. But I think that having integrity and not losing a part of yourself, to compromise, right? You know what I'm saying? Is very valuable. I mean, I see people who poison their neighborhoods, right? If we stop and think about, what type of compromises they made, whether it's, in drugs or whether it's taking something or some sort of riches from somebody else, right? To benefit their situation, their game. I mean, they got it, but they did it in a very compromising way, and sort of like, you don't ever leave a blueprint behind somebody to follow. So, yeah. Can you hear me?
You have to wait.
Yeah, I'm not sure if your mic is your mic connected?
It should be.
Okay.
We'll check that.
All right, while he's checking on that, go ahead, Trey Smooth.
All right, so I'm really big on integrity, right? I've had some opportunities to
get with certain groups or do certain things the fast way. But yeah, I'm not with selling my soul. The one of the biggest fears that I have, or what I resist the most, is being in debt to people, because when it's time for them to cash in, are you ready to do what it is that they want you to do? That's one of the reasons I don't really take anything from anybody unless I've earned it. Like I'm with the muscle, man. I'll do it the long way. Like I would much rather, it's when you work for something and you accomplish things and you did it the right way, it's no better feeling than that. Anything that I've ever accomplished, any place that I am right now, and any place that I'm going to go further in life, will all be done the right way, just because it's not worth it, right? When it's time for that, whatever you did, when you got to pay the piper, you may not be ready for that. And a lot of people don't think that. A lot of people, like Lewis was saying, they're going for the fast money. And not to say I've always operated like this, because I didn't really have that great of understanding of the consequences. And, my moral compass didn't always point the direction that it is right now. So I understand what it is. And just through lessons in life, I've learned that sometimes it's better to do it the long way, rather than just say, all right, well, this is what I need. I need to do this. I need it fast. I need it now. Like, and a lot of people, we live in a microwave society. So people feel like they just need it right now. Everything just has to be instant. They need that instant gratification. But you're always going to have to pay for it. And that's the main thing that people have to understand. So I'm always with the long way. I'm always going to be with it. And you just have to earn it. And patience, resilience. That's what it's going to take.
All right. Well, Trigger Mike, what are your thoughts about it, sir?
That was spot on, man. That whole thing was spot on. But I think it's really a testament to one of the sayings that I've had now. I believe the Newton's third law of motion is, for every action is an equal but opposite reaction. And I not only think that is true in physics, I believe that is true in the realm of human interaction. And I think for some people, what he said was actually spot on. If you ask them, if there's people who have obtained something, it doesn't just reveal itself in the works that they've done. You can see the way they've left destruction in their wake to achieve what they have. And I think the community celebrates people truly who obtain things the right way. And I've seen that as a pain point for some people. And I've seen it even in families, right? Where you have one family member that got money, and you have the one that's the doctor or somebody that is very high esteemed or in one of those professions, and everybody just acts like one is better than the other. And that person who might have got it in a sleazy way always has a chip on their shoulder because they're not as celebrated as that other person. So I think as a society, we know as a whole, the most celebrated person will always be the most wholesome, the most forthright, the person who helps the community, the person that's willing to give back and tell their story and scream it to the top of their lungs. But that dude that got money that offed a few people, but now he want to change his ways, nobody's ever going to forget about that. It's like you left a couple bodies back there, bro. So no, I think that's just the way life works. And if you are out here leaving damage and destruction in your wake, it will have long-standing implications on your mental health, on your soul, on your outlook in the community, and that's the way it should be.
All right, good, Sean Antonio.
All right, so look, I want to come at it a different way, right? All right, so me, I value integrity, I really do. But if I'm thinking about a lot of people as a whole, people who are willing to do things that we would consider selling our souls, they don't give a shit. They don't consider selling their souls. So for them, it was worth it. It was worth everything that they did, snaking people, stepping on people's necks. It was worth everything for them. They don't give a shit. They don't consider selling their souls. They don't have a moral compass. So they probably won't feel anything about it. Now, us as people who are decent, we feel a way about it looking externally. But them, they don't give a shit. They'll do it again 20 times. You feel me? And so we just have to understand that we have a different mindset in a different set of character, in different character than they have. The other thing, right? He insinuated that people who don't necessarily share their process and things like that, had to do it, had some nefarious way to get to where they got. And I think that a lot of times is true. Me sitting in my store in Chicago, bro, people would literally come in and ask me who my suppliers were. People I didn't even know literally would come in and ask me who my suppliers were. So one thing, they could be protecting their competitive advantage. They could be protecting their proprietary process. Also, some people are just gatekeepers. They won't share information with anybody, whether it's ill-gotten or not. So I think there are a number of ways that we can get to where, the thing that he talked about. But it doesn't just have to be somebody who just did a bunch of nefarious shit to get there.
Okay. All right, go, Sir Harold. What are your thoughts about it, sir? And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your soul?
As I was thinking about it, and salute to everybody on the panel. What's up, everybody? There are some benefits, but they're not long term. So let's think about remember, you guys, the whole PPP loan came out. Everybody got a business with the PPP loan. Everybody's a CEO of some kind of company, and I saw people who didn't have anything before, had nothing. They got BMWs, some, leasing out buildings. They buy themselves stuff. They buy themselves nice bags. And for us hardworking Americans, we still feel like, oh, how did y'all manage to get so much so soon? Well, speed it up 6 months to a year later, right? Now they're concerned about going to jail, about charges being pressed against them, because it's the benefits up front is you get to brag. You get to say, look at me now, I'm stunting on folks. But that's it. You don't have that. That's the only benefit. And the sad thing is so many people have such a short-term perspective on life that they live for that brag. They live for their people saying, but boy, you really doing it. Girl, you really killing, girl, you doing your thing. And we live for those little moments and we don't think long-term. So initially the benefit is people are bragging on you. You the stuff right now. You was popping. But long term, it's never worth it. And I think people need to understand that the decisions you make that go without character, that go without integrity, like you have to pay for it later. And I say it often like this. So the decisions you make now, either you're investing for a positive return or you just putting bad events on credit. Like you get to make the purchase and get what you want right now, but that credit payment is going to become due with interest later. And so it's just best to do whatever you're going to do with a level of integrity, and even if that means growing slower or not being as known or whatever that thing might be, operating in integrity.
All right, Brother Sweeney, what are your thoughts about it, sir? And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul?
As far as what the man was talking about, as far as people not providing you with information or telling you how they got there, I'm gonna say I lean a lot more towards what Sean Antonio said. There's a number of reasons why somebody would do that, right? And I'm in agreement with him. But to answer the question, I mean the saying is always for the love of money is the root of all evil, and I think the question speaks to that. When your number one goal is to make money, you don't care how you get there, evil follows. So I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, I think that's exactly how it is.
All right, go ahead. Humble Dad, what are your thoughts about it, sir?
What's up, gentlemen? Hey, well, this saying is from Matthew 16, and this is when Jesus was talking and letting the people know that you want all of these things that the world may offer, but in the end, you're going to go to hell. That's what it was talking about. That's where the saying comes from. So, and it's very similar to the real world. I mean, you may get you may sell your soul to the devil, but in the end, it's not going to be worth it. I mean, as far as Sean was saying, I can get his point. It may be worth it to that particular individual, but it's unfortunate because we're here to impact people and not just ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So, and also to say that if they got it in a illegal way or corrupt manner, who knows how many people that they had to damage to get there, so they are actually affecting people other than themselves. So it's very wise, I think, to take the I guess be well studied in what it is that you want to do and want to become, and just know that getting to greatness sometimes is just a slow grind, but you'll definitely appreciate it more if you look at it from the position of people that get money quickly. They also lose it quickly, right? So I think if we look at it from that approach, you'll see that yes, you may benefit in the short term, as Sir Hale said, but in the long term, you're going somewhere eternally where you don't want to be, in my estimation.
All right, go ahead, brother Hank. What are your thoughts about it?
Listen what Sean Antonio said about sharing information. I'm in a group where, we're landlords or house flippers or whatever, the different things. And one of the guys is one of those guys he's talking about that don't like to share no information. But that's the whole purpose for the group, for us to come together, share resources, share information, share knowledge, so everybody can be successful and continue to strive. Well, there was one guy who just didn't want to share the information. So we didn't want to put him out of the group because we've been known him for too long. But what we started doing is we sharing information with each other, but him. So now he was kind of froze out, where he ended up having to go to pretty much like a bootleg route. And I don't know if y'all know anything about Section 8. It's really hard to get a house put on Section 8. You got to go through a lot of red tape, a lot of details. Well, he went the bootleg route and failed his Section 8 inspection to the point where a month later, after he got it passed, his house ended up catching on fire, and he didn't get paid by the insurance because he bootlegged it. He didn't get a certified electrician to come over to certify his electrical box. So yeah, I mean, and that's one of the examples. He tried to benefit. He sold his soul to us, to me especially, because I mean everybody else don't feel like he did, but I said I feel like he did, because he put himself in that situation because he wanted to feel like he had one up on everybody else because he had a little bit more knowledge, and he had also the knowledge that we were sharing with him, but he didn't want to share the wealth. So
Okay. All right, go ahead, Purple Pill. What are your thoughts about it, sir?
Yeah, for some reason I still think that just requires a little bit of balance. Like you're gonna have to make some sacrifices and do some things, I think, sometimes to really become successful like you want to. But at the same time, you can look at places like Chick-fil-A that fully are in their purpose and do everything very godly, and they're a very successful company. There's a lot of Christian companies that are super hyper successful, and they never do people wrong. They never are doing horrible things, and they're very successful companies. So you can be successful being that way, but I think sometimes it does take a balance of taking risks or doing things that maybe you don't want to do. I'm not the type, like I wouldn't do that personally, but I can see how there's certain channels that might say certain things or do certain things to blow up faster, or like out in the streets people can get rid of certain people so then they can come up more because nobody's going to go to that person anymore. There's a lot of things that can happen so you can come up and start making more money, but I don't think it's necessary most of the time. Like we can see with Christian companies that you can be a good holy company and do everything correctly and still make millions of dollars. So yeah, I definitely don't think that you have to sell your soul to get the benefits that people think you want.
All right, Eric. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul?
I came in a little late on the conversation, but I think I got the gist of it. This is the twist I want to bring to it. There are many people that we see who are very successful now that have done that. Let's go to rappers, for instance, and most of the people in the hip hop game. Real talk, and this is what's so wild about it, and this is what always kind of got me, is that they actually brag about the things that they did. They brag about how, what they used to do in the streets. And I'm not talking about, the killing part, not that part as much, but the drugs, the different things of that nature. And then what happens is that once they get to where they are, then they try to turn it around and do good with it. Do things in the community, do things for people and that type of thing. So I think that a lot of people do think about this statement when they do some of the dirt that they do. But sometimes they feel like, hey, it's worth it to get out of that hole that they're in, the hole that they think they can never get out of. I'll even liken it to a football player that takes steroids. There was a study that said in the NFL, there was like almost 70% of the guys had steroid use. And some of them did it all the way to the end of their career. Now, they lost their lives, but they felt that they needed to do that to just start a legacy for their family. So some guys actually see themselves just sacrificing themselves to be able to get over the hump and be able to do what they need to do. And if they can live a better life in the latter part of their life by having more, what they think is more, or they can pass that legacy down to other family members and actually start something that they thought would never even be there. So I think it's always about the motive. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I do have an understanding of why people would do that. Because if they don't have nothing, and if it doesn't look like you'll ever have anything, then people will turn to do things that may not necessarily be something that we all agree with.
Eric, you said something that I think is very important about motive. Now, here's why I say this. If you guys come from anybody who's very religious, if you exceed what most of your people have done, they will assume that you done sold your soul. You done got too much too fast. You got a nice car, big house. So I do think that that's a really big part to examine your motives, why you do what you do, but then also not to allow other people to make you feel like you're doing something you know you're not doing. So if you know you've worked hard and you've put yourself in a position that you can afford things, you can do things more than what the people around you can do, like you can't allow people to make you feel bad like you done sold your soul, because that's in their mind, that's the only explanation for your success. So I think that was a really a great point, Eric. Check your motives, but don't let other people gaslight you to make you feel like you've done something wrong when you know you've really put the work in to be where you are.
But then when do you listen to people? Because there are people out here that feel like they're doing what's right. Like we talking, if you want to stay on the subject of rappers and things of that nature, they think that they're doing right because they're making money and people are buying their records. They're not going to be necessarily listening to individuals saying that their music is destroying the youth or people that listen to it. Not all rappers, right? But just the ones that glorify, all the negative things that we talk about. Like they don't have somebody they in their mind, as Sean was alluding to, they think that they're doing something right because people are buying their records. So how to say about a motive, like their motives may be that, this is how they save their family. This is how they get out of the hood. But at the same time, they're destroying lives. So, you can look at motives, but nobody knows motives other than you and whoever you serve.
Yeah, I understand that, but so I'm even going. Let's take it a step further. Yeah, we can talk about the rappers and what they talk about now, but let's go to big corporations and how they do things in our neighborhoods and all over the world. And they do things to us, and we applaud them, award them, give them all kinds of stuff. But then if we peel back some of the layers, they're doing worse than the guys that are rappers. Because you know why? The thing about it is, at least when the rapper throws the rock, you know who threw the rock. But when a corporation throws the rock, they throw the rock and hide their hand.
Man, you preaching the gospel right there, Eric. Because people have this myth that karma is this real thing that always happens, and the bad guy. Literally, these companies have built billion-dollar industries and businesses on the backs of a lot of bullshit. Literally. And they're thriving. Nothing bad is ever going to happen to them. Johnson & Johnson is not going out of business, even though that baby powder gave my mother ovarian cancer and she died. You feel me? They're never going out of business. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes the bad guy doesn't lose and they continue to thrive.
And sometimes those bad guys are the ones that make the rules, that make people go and play those rules so they can go ahead and think they are prospering. You get what I'm saying? So is everybody losing their soul?
I can definitely understand that, because like Sean's saying, that that karma thing doesn't happen. When you just look at the way things go in the world, you see a lot of people who have been good all their lives and they're suffering. And then you have people who are just ridiculous. They don't care. They don't have any type of morals or anything, and they thrive. And you would think like, hey, damn, something should be going wrong for this person. But you'll see generations and generations of their family doing as well as they would love to be. Like, as we kind of have to police ourselves, really, and because karma's not a real thing. There's no evidence of karma ever actually happening.
Well, so I just want to make sure. So, are we judging success simply by money and material possessions? Because here's my thought. Like, in talking to millionaires, one thing you start to see is, money to go anywhere, do whatever they want to do. But where it really stings people who make a lot of money is their intimate relationships. So, like, to the outside world, these are corporate executives, these are CEOs and presidents, and to the outside world, they can do whatever they want. But their daughter is not talking to them, right? Or their son doesn't want to have anything to do with them, or their wife, is with them, but they're not really together. So to the outside world, it's great, but inside in their home, they don't really have anybody to love them, and they really are questioning the friends that they have, if the friends are really genuinely there for them or because they have success. And I think that's a pain that a lot of people can't comprehend, because we assume that the more you have, the happier you are, and that's really not how life is.
Yeah, what's it all worth if you can't take it with you under this earth? Rich men have tried and none of it worked. That's the kind of quote Nas. We looked at it from the money and the fame perspective, but also people do it for the power. Power comes a huge component, and also influence, right? I know we kind of look at the money aspect because of how it was worded, but I think also power in itself, people have done it. Just think about the politicians or people at your local level, or even at the higher level, public office, right? There are backdoor deals that are constantly happening that sometimes go against your best interest, that goes against the best interest of their constituents, their party, even you, the taxpayer base of your town, city, or state. So I think that power in itself and that ability to control and influence the minds and hearts of people also becomes a huge component of why people do certain things. And at the end, you don't really pass that down unless you really set something up, right? At least monetarily.
All right, if you guys just tuning in, welcome to King Talk. Just make sure you hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. My apologies again. My cord took a L right before the show. Well, at least I discovered it right before the show. Shout out to the sponsor, Teach Hanley Uncomplicated Skincare for Men, 30% off along with a free gift. That link is in the description. Let's go ahead and move on to our next topic, which is This Is Why He Lies to You. Let me go ahead and play this clip.
Action that you have with your husband when he is being vulnerable, you have to put on your I'm not shocked face, because if you don't do that, then he's not going to tell you anything else. You have shut him totally down, because what he's probably expressing to you is only about 30% of what the real truth is. He's trying to see how much you can handle. So in that moment, when your husband is telling you something that you know is extremely vulnerable and is something that he's struggling with, first of all, he's trusting you, but he's only trusting you with a small morsel to see how much you can take and how much you can eat. And your interaction with him in that moment will make him decide what else he's going to tell you.
Go ahead and go to Sweeney first. Sweeney, is that true? Is that how it go down? Only giving 30% of the truth?
I always say this, and this is why men lie. Yeah, there's some truth to what she said. I don't think it's as calculated as she made it seem. I think a guy tries to come out, be upfront and honest about something, and then she gives him hell for it, and he's like, well, shit, I'd rather keep it to myself at this point. You know what I mean? We talked about this a few weeks ago. You know what I mean? A lot of women don't make it safe for men to be honest with them about anything, especially if you're talking about something that's involving, you know what I mean, a family dynamic or something he may feel insecure about or something like that. We watch it all the time. As soon as a man comes out, he starts to express himself, his insecurities or things like that, he gets attacked for it. I think there was a rapper that we just seen where he did a song, what was it, Halle Berry's boyfriend? and he did a song that was kind of like alluding to his insecurities with her. And I don't know if he was serious or not. We don't actually know that, but he was speaking about how he felt insecure about the role that she took and the promotion that she did where she was holding his hand and I think she may have kissed a guy in public and stuff like that. And he made a song talking about his insecurity, and the world attacked him for it. Made him feel like, you know what I mean? Made him feel like less than nothing for it. So no, I don't think men have the space, to be honest. Not as much as they would like for us to believe that we do. So yeah, I think there's some truth to what she said. I don't think he's as calculated with it. I think he comes out and says what he got to say, and it's up to you to make sure that he's willing to say more to you or say less to you.
All right, brother Hink, this is why he lies to you, creeping up on you with the truth.
Well, because a lot of women don't like Swin said, that allow a safe space for a man to be vulnerable. I know, like with me, what I've done, I wouldn't share anything that I haven't addressed or dealt with, or that I'm struggling with currently. I wouldn't, because I don't know her intentions completely. I don't know if she's really going to be able to handle what I'm going to share with her or what I'm going to say, or is she going to feel some type of way about me, or is she going to look at me differently or less of a man if I share this with her? You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to share something that I have already addressed. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, I'm be vulnerable now. Like, I shared my issues that I used to have with my father, and my father not being, I guess, what they call it, a father abandonment or issues with your father, whatever. I shared that with her. I let her know I did. I was that guy who had issues. When I seen other people with the father, I was jealous. I was envious as a kid, and it was hard to handle. You know what I'm saying? But those are things I had to get over. I had to get therapy for. You know, now, fortunately for me, the woman I'm with now, she was able to relate to me. She was able to handle it, and she talked me through it. And, you know, even though I she didn't know I addressed it already, I let her know afterwards. I said, baby, I appreciate what you're saying and how you feel. And I appreciate you just listening, but just giving that safe space. But most ladies won't. I mean, you know what I'm saying? We've seen it all the time, man, where a man will sit there and would just be ready to just start bawling. And she'll criticize him, laugh at him. You need to man up. But I promise you, let you come at her in a harsh way like she came at you. Did you get over what you going through? Oh, why are you crying? I don't give a damn your mama talk crazy to you.
What?
That was 25 years. Why are you still holding grudges against that heifer? You don't even go over her now, but why are you still holding grudge? They would have a fit. They would call you insensitive, heartless, you know, just ready, just cut you off. You sleeping on the couch tonight, no ass later. I don't want going down. So yeah, ladies, make yourself vulnerable and make yourself a safe, make a safe place for men to be vulnerable with you. Your relationship will you'll take your relationship to a whole new level. I promise you, ladies.
All right, brother Hank, humble dad, what are your thoughts about it? This is why he lies to you.
Men lie for different reasons as it relates to talking to your girl. By the time it's your wife, hopefully y'all have already reached to the point where she's trustworthy with your emotions and your feelings and the things that, you know, your darkest, deepest thoughts are able to be shared with her, and she is your safe space. And it's unfortunate if you are married to a woman that hasn't created your safe space. I would say that you didn't do a good job of vetting, because for me, my late wife, she was dope at just listening to what was on my mind, what was on my heart, the things that I struggle with, and then, you know, with her passing, my new wife, Kendra, she's from day one, she was open to hearing me talk to her about my late wife, and even times when I cried, like, she didn't make a big deal about it. She just allowed me to be emotional and to talk to her about it, you know. So I didn't have a need to lie about things, you know what I'm saying, because I knew that I could trust her with something with such a pain as that. So I think some men, they lie because they may not have all the information, and their wife or girlfriend or whatever needs to have all the information beforehand, and he only give little bits and pieces at times. He may lie because he don't trust her. That's what I would think. He has a fear. Once again, he has a fear that she's going to use that against him. It kind of really all depends on the subject, I think. But if it's a part of his emotion, if it's related to how he feels about something, I do believe that most women do hold it against them. So that's why it's important for you to add that to the part of your vetting process. Can she be trusted with your feelings and your emotions? If not, you probably need to go to you should go to another woman that can handle the types of things, because we go through a lot. You know what I'm saying? And we don't talk about it enough. I know for me, talking on this show, I don't get to talk as much, but I do talk a lot more than now, especially when I'm around JR. I don't know if y'all met JR, but JR talk a lot. You know what I'm saying? So just put that in there.
Easy now with that.
My bad. You my boy. You know what I'm saying? So I can talk about you.
He's not lying though.
So humble dad, let me ask you. You are saying make sure she could be vulnerable. You could be vulnerable with her, before you marry her, right? So
yes.
You would. Okay. Because the way it sounded, I thought you saying you.
No, what I was saying, if you have married a woman who you cannot be vulnerable with, you did a bad job in vetting. That's what I'm saying, and so you should make that a part of your vetting process.
I agree.
All right. Go ahead, Trev Smooth. What are your thoughts about it, sir? This is why he lies to you.
Okay. A few different reasons, of course. I would say one of the number one reasons is because women sometimes will weaponize it. So you can give them information and then they will absolutely use that against you to harm you, right? Sometimes you get with the wrong female and she will try to break you down mentally. So like Humble Dad was saying, you have to have somebody who you can trust with that information. It's, as men and humans in general, we would love to be honest. There's so much more work to lie. And then you have to be consistent with that lie, and you have to keep up with it. It's crazy. You don't really want to lie, but we just do sometimes because you don't know if you could trust that person with the information, and weaponizing is something really horrible. Secondly, they might look at you differently, right? There's certain, they might think that you are less of a man. They might think that you are soft sometimes, so it's difficult sometimes to be vulnerable with women just for that reason, because they don't know how to process it. They might not have a good idea, at least, of what masculinity really is. They judge you sometimes, and then, it's horrible because now you don't have that safe space. You want somebody that you can really talk to. And I would say a third reason is sometimes we just want to protect the women because there's certain information that you give them that they may not know how to process the same way that you can as a man. There's certain things like financial difficulties and stuff you should, but you don't know what that's going to do to her. You might have a woman, you have to know where her mental space is. You might have a woman who's suffering from anxiety. You might have a woman who's suffering from depression, and any little thing could trigger it and they won't be in a good space. So that's another reason why you might lie. I don't know if you want to consider that a good lie, but it's really like damage control because you don't want to send this woman off the handles.
All right. Go ahead, Sean Antonio. What are your thoughts about it, sir? This is why he lies to you.
Damn, man. Trev took a bunch of what I was going to say, man. I've had that experience.
My bad.
No, I've had that experience where it was weaponized either, during or after the relationship. When an argument comes up, sometimes it can feel like a woman is just waiting to throw that bomb at you, throw that dagger at you. And it's that dagger that, oh, that's why them dudes shot you when you were 17. You know what I'm saying? Like it, oh, that's why they had you running, you know what I'm saying, when they pulled them guns out, as if you're supposed to stand there and get shot. You know what I'm saying? And so I've had that happen to me. You know what I'm saying? And literally, like the lady said, bro, once that happens, like I'm not gonna give you too many chances to do that to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna, and this may go a little bit left, but this is how people end up having those emotional bonds with other people, because you do have people that are external that you can tell these things to, and it may be innocuous, it may just be benign, you know what I'm saying? But before you know it, it can possibly grow to be more of an emotional side thing, where you don't have any intention to do anything physical, but you're sharing these intimate things and these vulnerabilities with somebody else because your person didn't give you a place to land that plane. You know what I'm saying? And that's hard, man. When you have these things, like as men, I don't know if women really realize this. As men, we worry about things too. As men, sometimes we're unsure too. We take a lot of risks. I take a lot of financial risks as an entrepreneur. Now, they're calculated risks, but they're risks. And sometimes you do want to talk them out with somebody, especially if that's somebody that you're sharing your life with. And sometimes you don't feel like you can do that because already know what they're going to say. You just already know what they're going to say. So you know what? Let me just go over here and have this conversation, and then I'll just go on about life. So, yeah, ladies, please make a place for your man to feel safe and comfortable talking. And even saying that, I know some people's going to be like, oh, that sounds like some soft shit. Nothing soft about me. Men have emotions too. It just is what it is.
All right. Go ahead, Sir Hill.
Really dope perspective. So here's the thing. So a lot of women have been trained on how to talk, and a lot of men have been conditioned on how to hear a woman. I have rarely heard women be referred to as great listeners growing up. When I was growing up, the books that I read, the shows that I heard was always about a man needs to learn how to listen to his woman. And I didn't really hear a balance of that in terms of women knowing how to hear their man. And I don't just mean his words and being able to quote his words back, but I mean really hear that man's heart and then still respect him. Here's the ugly truth about manhood is if a man opens up, this is what vulnerability is. If he opens up and he shows you some feelings, it is tough because when a man, you know how like you have money in your pocket and you feel good because you got a pocket full of money, it can't even bother you. And then your money get low and you feel some kind of way about it. You feel not as powerful, not as protected. Well, when a man is going through something that makes him vulnerable and he opens up about it, it's not that he feels like he's less of a man. Is he doesn't feel like as strong of a man, at least in that moment. And when he's allowing his woman to come into that, that's either like real talk. If a woman breaks his trust in that moment, he might stay married to her, but his trust for her goes down to the toilet. And there is a level of insight that he'll never give to her again because she abused that trust. And so I think it's important for two things. A lot of men are not confident with not being a robot. Like we're always in performance mode, and the moment we can operate at 100%, that to us is an indictment on our masculinity, because y'all know in 2023, if you ain't got six figures, if you ain't right, it's always something that says you're not a man. If you guys really think about masculinity, it's the moment you don't have something, the moment you lack something or you're not great at something, you're less of a man. Like your whole manhood, it comes into question when you don't have something. And I don't think women understand the pressure that men are under to not only be good men to you, but to be good men and to be providers, and then to be excellent providers, while we think about the fact that we're getting older, while we're thinking about the fact that we're not as quick as we used to be, and we see time going away from us, and we're thinking about investments, and did we raise our kids correctly? And then when I'm tired after working, I got to come home and I got to break my wife off, because they tell you if you don't give your wife love and you're not there, she's going to go get emotionally connected to somebody else, right? So it's like we go through so much, and I think that because we handle it so well, that women underestimate what men go through. So it's important for men to have circles like this, because the truth is, if a woman gets her perspective from another woman who cannot handle a man, she'll always think that Superman is the man, and not that Clark Kent is the man who just happens to have a cape to turn it on when he needs to. So men, we got to be okay with, like Sean said, the range of emotions. And when I say this, I don't mean the two emotions that men get. You get to be angry or you get to be horny. Those are the two emotions you get, sirs. You don't get nothing else. You don't get to be sad. You don't get is horny or angry. I need you to fight, or I need you to I can't say the other word. Right. So you get those two emotions, right? That's all we get. So men, we got to make it okay to have a range of emotions and not to poke at men who are already feeling, you know what I mean? Feeling depleted in some areas. That's the first thing. And then we got to teach women how to hear men. That when you hear a man, it is not your job to go into mother mode and to try to coddle us. We don't need you for that. A lot of times men don't even need you to say nothing for the most part. Just your presence there in your ear is all that we need. So that's my answer to that. This is why men lie. If we can't get this, we'll lie to you because we love you. But that does leave a door open for us to go cheat. I'll say this and then I'll end my plane. Like a lot of women be like, men are dogs. Men cheat. Men gonna go out. Men go. No, men go where they are heard. And oftentimes a man will sleep with the woman who hears him. And so if you want to avoid that and cut that off, be willing to hear your man.
The dude need to go ahead and just leave then. Why cheat? Just leave.
See, I used to think that as well. It's just easy to leave, but I would say that's an opportunity to work out. No, here's what I'm saying. Like you're gonna want to cheat sometime. Listen, a lot of people think you get married and you just I don't want to cheat. No, it's the desire is there, but going further than that. Because cheating don't just start. Most men don't wake up today and say, you know what, I think I'm gonna get some draws. It typically it's a progression of stuff, right? And that's what I'm saying. I want people to hear this to protect that door, so that a conversation here, a lunch here with friends there, you know, a passing comment after work here doesn't culminate into, you know, an emotional affair that leads to actual physical cheating.
Yeah, I understand. Now I'm saying, but if you're going to go through the process of cheating on your spouse, that means you need to go ahead and go get counsel. Or you just need to leave, is what I'm saying.
I can agree with that.
And go ahead, Purple Pill. What you got? What you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, just being honest, women can't handle the truth. They've never been able to handle the truth. I don't think that we're supposed to. I think you can give them breadcrumbs, like you can give them little pieces of the truth here and there, but man, like if you're a guy as an entrepreneur, you're going through financial issues, you can't go and tell them about that stuff. Like I think Trev was talking about this and Sean a little bit. Like if they're depressed or if they have anxiety or anything, man, that can trigger stuff in them. Like it's like I don't think that they're meant to or built to handle the type of stress that a guy can. You got to go to your homies and you got to talk about it. I mean, I'm pretty sure Jesus wept alone. Like I don't think that there was anybody around him, and I really think that
there was somebody around.
Oh, okay, well, I really think sometimes like you can cry alone as a man though. I really have like a lot of pride in that and getting through an issue and just you know, calling your boys and figuring out the issue. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with crying, but I don't think that you need to do it around other people. I'm able to do that, but I always say I think you have to earn your ability to do that in front of your girl. I think if you're doing that and you're a broke dude and you're crying about, you know, getting tires on the car or something like that, that's a problem, man. You know, like you shouldn't be crying over that. But but yeah, I really think for the most part we should never be honest with these women because you're just, for the most part it's going to end up backfiring on you. You can be honest sometimes, but most of the time you can't.
All right, so don't be honest to them. Just laugh every now and then because they can't handle it.
Why do you think that a man cannot cry about not being able to put tires on his car if he doesn't have the money?
Because like I think complaining is just a feminine attribute. So like if you're complaining about something that isn't that big of a deal, I just think it's feminine. And crying is a very, very extreme complaining about the tire. It's an extreme complaint about it. And like that, I think that's just a little bit too far. Like I think the masculine thing to do is like, well, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to problem solve. That's what we've always done throughout all of history.
When did crying become complaining? That's not
if it's over a tire, if it's over like not being able to afford a tire, I think then that's complaining about it.
But that's the thing. Like, so let's extrapolate this out further. Losing your house, because the tire is just but the tire is just a small aspect of not being able to provide something. There's a lot of people out there that can't afford brand new tires for their car. Tires are
You know how much tires are, bro?
Like
Yeah,
you talk
yeah, I
about
know.
$1,200-$1,300 for a set of 4 tires on a lot of people cars nowadays. So I can see, I don't, you know what I mean? Obviously, I don't attribute crying to complaining. I attribute complaining to complaining. So if you out there and you want to bitch to people about the fact that you can't afford your tires, that's different versus somebody breaking down because they can't afford it.
I just think that you could put energy towards like crying in the moment and being emotional and being sad about, or you could put energy towards how can I solve this problem? How can I make some more money? Can I go apply for another job? Who can I borrow this from possibly? Like who can I go talk to? Who can I go network with? It's just there's like, and it's how the woman is going to see it as well. She's going to see you in that moment. And she's going to say, okay, he has 2 choices right now where he can break down and act like this to me, or he can try to solve the issue. And I just think that she's going to see you as more of a man for trying to solve the issue versus crying about the issue. There's a lot of things to cry about, bro. There's tons of stuff that I think it's okay to cry about. Like seriously, tons of stuff. Watching movies, sad moments, parents go, or you're just sad because of something that happened in your past, trauma. There's all types of reasons I think for you to be able to cry, and your woman shouldn't judge you for it. But I really think financial issues is one of those things that makes you look really
You cried about a movie, man, and you don't think you'll judge it.
Wait.
So what about when you watch Bambi and that motherfucker mama died? Did you cry? God dang.
I can't remember the last time I watched
No,
Bambi.
Hank, if you crown on Bambi, you saw. Now, Lion King, that's a different story, but Bambi, no.
Are people not capable of doing both? Can a person cry about something because they're in an emotional state at that moment, but then afterwards find out how to solve the problem? Because I mean, the reality is the problems ain't gonna solve themselves. You still got to figure it out. But if you can, aren't you capable of expressing your emotions in that moment and then going out and figuring it out? And then 2, how is it that you gonna say it's okay to cry over a damn movie, but you can't cry that your car is on bricks right now?
Because one is empathy. One is just having empathy for something. I think it's okay to have empathy or sympathy for something. And then the other is literally a physical issue in the world. Like it's a problem that needs to be solved. Like I'm the type of person, whenever I have a problem that needs to be solved, I'm not going to cry about it. Like I will just solve the issue. Now, there are some people where whenever something bad happens like that, their first reaction is to cry. I'm just not one of those people. I wasn't taught to do that. I was taught to like figure out how to solve the issue. I think that you can find a girl that would maybe be acceptable with that, but just me personally, like I'm not that type of person, so I wouldn't know how to find that or anything. But I did find a girl that's okay with me crying in movies, and I'm okay with that because I'm very social. I like my movies.
You know what?
You'll cry over some fake shit, but you won't cry over some real life shit.
Real life
major issue.
You won't cry over that. You'll cry because
I'm gonna tell you what.
Ricky got shot in the movie. Come on, man.
Look, I think what Purple Pill's talking about, like the main issue with you crying over tires is that the woman is probably going to question your ability to problem solve, and she might see that as just something frivolous that you shouldn't cry about. I couldn't see myself crying over tires under any circumstances. I mean, anything material for real. Even if you're about to lose your house, man, it's like, all right, it's it'll hurt, but listen, you have to show strength.
Wait. So let me jump in real quick.
More than likely, the shit, it was
Go ahead.
a bunch of shit built up. It was more than just the tires being flat or being replaced. It might have been, man, last week his engine went out.
We don't know. I don't know what he meant.
Okay, but he said over the tires itself. So that's what I'm saying. It could have been a cumulative thing, and these tires was just the last straw, and it broke the camel's back, man.
I guess that's a really good point, because unless you have lost a house or really lost and you felt defeated, it ain't even about the tires. Is when you feel defeated as a man and you got to go look into the eyes of the people you're responsible for, and you don't know how you're gonna do it. Like, if you get a month, but we got to eat tomorrow. You know what I mean? And you don't know how to figure it out, and you maxed out your credit cards, and you feel defeated. Like, I think we got to give men. I just noticed whenever we talk about emotion, we go straight to crime. And the crime is something that we take as at a jab. I told you guys, we get 2 emotions. I told you this earlier. If you cry, right, you are less of a man. And I don't think people understand that when a man has tried and he's hit a part in his life and he feels defeated, that's a low that could make or break man. Like at first, I used to hear men who used to be making a lot of money on the exchange markets, and then they would go broke, and what they would do, they'll jump off. And you hear that, and you're like, I could never do that. Well, you've never been under the kind of pressure that man was under. You see what I'm saying? So I think that we got to give men a greater range, because if y'all gonna say it's wrong if we go out and go drink, you're gonna say it's wrong if we go out and we go gamble. So if I get to take 5 minutes to release this pressure and then collect myself and get back to thinking and getting back to being a man, then I think we need to open it up for men to have that moment, right? And this really ain't about crying in front of your girl, because we're so modern in our thinking. We're so modern that it's almost, when I hear a lot of guys talk about women, it's like, you don't need one. Like, there's no part in your life where you need her that she's of value to you, because you got to do it without her. And I say this to say, like, shout out to Jonathan Barenville. He said he lost some people consecutively, and he felt like he couldn't really cry about it, don't feel comfortable. I understand that. When you lose people and you're so concerned with looking strong for everybody that you can't process that again, that benefits you early, but that messes you up later. Because if you don't have grace for yourself, you cannot have grace for your wife. If you don't have like grace and empathy for you, you cannot have it for your kids. So, and then a woman who sees you defeated, a wise woman, she's not going to look at you and what you're going through and look at you as less of a man. If she loves you, the least she's going to do is pray for you and show that she's a support system.
That's not a lease, bro.
Well, hold on a second.
Right? Praying is a big deal. It's not a lease.
Now, we're not talking about whether it's right or wrong, because I think men should be given that grace. However, we're talking about why we lie to women. So that's the problem we're having. Women are not going to process it that way. If she sees you crying over tires, most women, maybe a lot of us have very good wives that are understanding, but we were very careful in our vetting process, right? But the average woman is probably going to see you as soft if you cry over tires. It is what it is. And that's why you would lie. And that's all I was talking about.
But I think so.
How do we get to crying over tires? I have never seen.
I don't know. Like, I didn't bring that up. I just
like the reason to
it's Purple's fault with their tires and
always doing stuff like this, man.
I use tires as an avatar for a much larger problem. Like Sir Hill said, it's the pressure. Like sometimes that the tires is the thing that broke you, because it's like, damn, last week it was the lights. Now it's this week. Then next thing, another thing pop up. Next thing you know, 3 of your tires go bad. You like, God damn, when can I catch a break?
Yeah, and that's a different situation. That's not crying over tires. That's crying over that's accumulative. That's not the same thing. He just simply said.
Well, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying earlier when I used my reference. First, it was the engine. You know what I'm saying? Went out on you. You know, your transmission started slipping on you. You know what I'm saying? And your tires was the last thing to go. It was like, fuck, man. Like we said. When I catch a break, man.
And then
that's different. That's different.
Let me ask y'all this. What if he shedded a single tear? Would he still be considered Mexican?
No, you just say Mexican.
Not at all.
You didn't say Mexican.
Did I say Mexican? I mean Mexican. I'm sorry.
No, you been Mexican.
My Negro dialect.
That's called a Freudian slip right there.
Yes, he would still be considered Mexican if he shared a single tear.
Well, technically, that is true.
All right, let me go ahead and get Luis in there on this topic. This is why he lasted.
Oh man, Hank, that was good. That was really good. Look, I'm gonna chime in and say most women can't handle masculine problems, right? Your woman is not the first person that you call when there's a issue that arises, right? I think it's incumbent upon you to figure it out, strategize it, and then present it later. Like, look, this happened, and this is how I handled it. This is how I solved it. This is what I did, et cetera, right? You know, take initiative, you know, show signs of leadership. And, you know what I'm saying? In terms of crime, you got to be a little bit stoic, especially over tires. You know, you got to be able to problem solve. Because honestly, I'm gonna give you a real moment. I am fucking busy as shit. I am drowning. I have so many projects going. I'm in the middle of trying to renovate one of my buildings right now, and I need to allocate work, and I can't find too many dudes to kind of allocate some stuff to. And I'm like, damn, who the hell am I to? Come to find out, I'm sitting on the train heading back home with one of my old colleagues that was sitting right across from me. And I told him, I was like, yo, are you busy right now? Because I would love to give you some work right now. You take off my plate because I'm like drowning, you know? And that right there was an opportunity for me to delegate and get things off and kind of get somebody else involved and, you know, use your resources and reach out to people, right? I love the tire analogy because it does present an interesting crossroad where you find like, damn, like I really, really, really need these because we're heading off on the road with the family and we can't be on the road with, you know, bald tires, right? You know, my kids use this vehicle, my wife uses this vehicle, right? And sort of like, what are the avenues that you have, you know, available to you? Even if I have to go and hustle, whatever it is for one day, whether it's like getting cans or, you know what I'm saying, what valuable stuff do I have here that I don't need that I could get rid of and cash in for whatever money to put it towards those tires, right? I think it's about being a little bit more creative and innovative in the way you think and the way you process things, because you're going to have moments of defeat, but you got to kind of laugh at it because you guys got to think about it. Every day we got to count our blessings. So there's many people that didn't wake up today, and you woke up today to solve another problem, not only for yourself, but also for your loved ones as well. So I think it's a challenge and it's a daily grind, and I feel it, especially when we have these kind of conversations and I hear other people gonna go through it, right? And sort of we become a bit of a sounding board where we kind of echo certain sentiments where we could pull from each other and learn from each other and kind of vent to one another, right? Where you come to your woman with much cooler heads. You've already thought out you already thought through the problem. You've already game plan a solution, right? So you're not coming hot and heavy to her and be like, you know, today it was just, you know, a bad day. You know, you're overly, you know, don't do that. But I think that make sure you use your brothers, you know, closest to you to kind of prepare yourself, even if it's the worst of situations. At least you have something mapped out. And then if there's one last thing I'm gonna say is this: be the type of a man and example that you want to see your sons follow, right? Because what you do and how you handle it sets the precedent for those who come after you. Are you?
Let me ask the fellas a question, right? So this is us talking to one another. This is us. Are we not putting unnecessary pressure on men for them to tell them that they cannot be vulnerable rather than telling them that you should have a woman around you that allows you to be there? Because I'm going to be real with you. If you can laugh when you're happy around your woman, if you can celebrate when you win around your woman, when you can brag because you got it around your woman, then you should damn sure be able to cry when you suffer around your woman. There's no reason why we should sit here and tell men, and I get it that we have women on the other side, and there's been a lot of evidence that women do these type of things to men. But it's time for us to set the precedence around here and tell them you got the wrong woman in your life if you can't be honest and you can't be upfront and you can't be vulnerable without having to worry about her looking at you some type of way. That's the wrong kind of woman.
So I agree with you that you are with the wrong woman if you cannot be vulnerable. I completely agree with you on that. But the thing is, we have to understand men and women are just not the same though. Like you being like, if she can cry with me, I should be able to cry with her. We should be able to share happiness together, and like if she's happy, I can be happy. Like we need to understand men and women are just not the same, and they can't handle the same stresses as us. Like I really agreed with like Trev and Sean because I've seen this personally too, where some women are just not able to handle hearing about certain financial things. How Louis said, like being able to fully plan it out and know exactly what you did as a leader and stuff, and then showing it to them, like that's really the best way to do it. Because if you try to go cry to her immediately with the problem, sometimes they might not be a strong ass woman that can handle that. And then she's going to have a panic attack, or she's going to have anxiety or something. And she's going to be freaking out and be thinking, oh my God, like, how are we going to handle this? But they're just not built to handle the same type of stuff as us. And there's nothing wrong with that. Mother Nature built it that way for a reason. And but I agree with you, though, that you're with the wrong girl if you can't be vulnerable, 1,000%. But we just need to, at the end of the day, remember men and women are completely different. We're hardwired completely differently. And sometimes crying and just being vulnerable and emotions and stuff, it's two completely different things. Guys are supposed to be really logical, and women are supposed to be really emotional. And there's reasons for that. It's not a bug. It's a feature. It's a good thing. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I just think there's a way you share the information then. You know, you just realize what you need to share with her, and how you say it. You know, don't come like you all in a panic when you share the information. If you could come to a calm, collective, say, and reassure, it's going to be all right. But I'm dealing with these things. I'm going through this, but we're going to be all right. I promise you. I've came up with some solutions. I came up with some answers, but I am going through this, and so this is why we're not going to be able to make this vacation this summer, because I made this investment. It didn't pan out like I thought it would, but we're going to be okay. Bills are still going to get paid. We're just not going to have that buffer I planned on before I made this investment.
I wanted to say real quick. I think
in a way where she can, definitely understand. So
yeah, but we have to be realistic about it, right? We're making it seem as if every man has their pick of the litter when it comes to women. Like, just go get this right woman. We know the stats about men and them not being able to obtain any type of women at all. We know how that goes. So we can't pretend like we should just get a better woman. There's not the same amount of women that are like that as right now with the generations. Like, if you're talking about somebody who's like a millennial down, Gen Z, like it's a different breed. They don't behave like that. It's not the same type of woman. A lot of them are different. They are different. You talking about somebody who's Gen X and above? Okay, that's different. Like, it was a different type of women. But what men have access to now, and if any woman, most dudes can't get women at all. They don't have choices. They just want to get any woman. There's 1 in 3 men that's not getting nothing. They haven't in the last year. And we're talking about trying to be picky about what kind of women we could get. We got to get realistic. It's tough. So
I don't think that's picky, though,
we
bro.
Adapt. What's that?
Picky. How is that picky?
That's
not picky. I mean, that's what you need to set. Like, you don't need to settle.
I'm saying, I'm not saying that I wouldn't do that, right? I feel like you should build yourself as a man so you have access to, a better caliber of woman. That's what I advise people to do. But not everybody's doing that. And a lot of people don't have access to good women. There's not a lot of good women. I'm just saying it's less and less of them, less and less of them every generation. That women that are actually understanding, women that you can talk to, women that even know how, women that are not dysfunctional. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying.
They know how to deal with men in a whole.
What Sweeney was saying is that we need to make it to where women are adjusted, not us. Because what's the alternative? For you not to be honest with her, to lie to her, because she's not willing to understand that you want to have a safe space. I mean,
you just have to know you have to know what you're dealing with and adapt to the situation. I would encourage people first to look for a better woman, but a lot of people are already in situations where they don't have that type of woman. Right. And what's the alternative? Go ahead, get a divorce. Go ahead, find another woman. No, some people didn't even know. And then, these women come in like Trojan horses sometimes. They're coming with one attitude and then switch up on you. And of course, that's with the vetting process and all that. But that's neither here and there because it's already happened. So you have to adapt to your situation. You do the best you can with that.
Which one is it? I'm trying to get you in on your thoughts. So which one is it?
Okay.
That most men can't get a woman, or most situations they have one already? It can't be both.
You said most men have. I never said that.
I said
there are men. There are men
have a situation where they're already in a relationship. That's what you said.
Men have. So there's men that have there's situations that they're already in. Right. If you're already married, you're already in a long-term relationship. Right. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're married, it's not that easy to just leave. And then there's other men who don't have access to women at all.
Right. So then, okay. So I'm just trying to get clarification. So then, what is the alternative? If there are no good women, then are you suggesting that the man go ahead and lie to the woman, or decide to?
If you with the woman that can't handle the truth, yes. That's not the first. That's not
So
my
then that
first
means
choice.
that
Of
you're
course not.
adjusting. So then you're not really the leader of the relationship.
It is what it is. You have to.
Yeah, but
You have to be the leader of the
but
relationship.
when you
That doesn't take
but when
away
you
your leadership. That doesn't take away your leadership per se.
you do
You
that,
just
you
have
you
to
going down
understand.
Trevor, when you do that, you're going down a slippery slope now, right? You're
Of
lying now.
course,
She goes lying and she lying, you lying, and that ain't
I'm
gonna
not.
last long.
We're not talking about being. We're not talking about being a straight up liar all the time. But there's certain things
But
that
that's what it's gonna turn into, though.
you can't.
That's what
It
it's
doesn't
gonna
have to
turn
turn into
into.
that. There's certain information. There's certain information that maybe you know that she can't handle, and you won't do that to her. It doesn't mean that I'm just going to be a stone cold liar for no reason, but you might know, okay, this person is not emotionally ready to process this information, so I'm not going to share that information. We're not
Let me
We're
saying
ask
gonna
you.
that
lie
Let me
you
about
ask
need to
you.
lie about
we're gonna lie,
everything.
we're gonna lie about you know our finances. We're gonna lie about that, and I'll be honest with you, because she's gonna stress out, or she just ain't gonna be able to handle it, and that lie is gonna turn into lack of conversations, and then lack of conversation is gonna turn into lack of intimacy, and then lack of intimacy is gonna turn into divorce.
But
It just
how
makes
does that
more
turn?
sense.
How
It
does
just
a
makes
lie
more
turn
sense. I
into
think
lack of
somebody said it, though.
conversations?
I think somebody
How
said
do,
it makes more sense to already have your game plan together and then tell her about the game plan. Like how if
yeah.
there's a situation with the tire, you don't have money for the tire, you need to be like, okay, let me figure this out. And so that I don't have to lie, I'm telling her what the game plan is so that we can get what's the exit strategy, right? If you're in real estate, you know that term. What's your exit strategy? Okay, so if you that's the point, that's the premise in which I'm saying to avoid lying. Already know how you're going to get to the next position instead of saying, well, I ain't got it. That's what I'm saying.
Let me add to this, Trey. All right, let me ask you this. If the end result is she gonna leave you anyway. If you lie, she's gonna leave you. If you and you by you saying if you tell her to be honest and be, you know what I mean, show your emotional side or whatever, she's gonna feel some type of way about you, she's gonna leave you. If the end result is, let me ask you this. So if one, the line and everything, yeah, you might keep her a little bit longer, but then she's gonna wind up leaving you anyway if you don't drive yourself into an early grave. Or you can be upfront and honest with her and don't drive yourself into an early grave. And yeah, you might still wind up risking leaving her anyway. I mean, her leaving you anyway. But which one is better for the man
Yeah, but
as
what are
far
we
as
lying about?
himself?
All right, y'all. Let me get Eric in there too. Eric haven't answered the question. I know you've been waiting patiently. Eric, what are your thoughts? And then we can circle back around, gentlemen.
It's just real simple, man. I think first of all, I think we've just beat this subject to death. Real talk, man. Most relationships that deal with that kind of stuff, first of all, it doesn't matter how a relationship ends up getting to that place where a man has to cry. In the first stages, there's always the honeymoon stage. We know that. We know that. So I don't necessarily agree with the vetting before. I really don't. I think that times change, situations change, and circumstances change. I really haven't heard anybody talk about that. When dynamics change around the household, when circumstances and situations change that affect your household, that can actually have an adverse effect on you. And let's just be honest, gentlemen, you know, your woman is spiritually connected to you and she feels everything that you're going through as well. I think that oftentimes when men have to get to that point where they're crying and feel like they got to reveal something to their wife when it's dealing with something with the household, a lot of times a woman these days already knows that it's going on in the household. She already knows what's happening. She has a feel for it. We don't have trophy wives anymore. We don't. That's something, and my brother Trev said something about generational stuff, but that's a generation that was way back even before the baby boomers. You know what I'm saying? That might have been even a silent generation, which was way back in the 40s. So the thing about it is the household already feels the pressure. Now, if the man comes to the woman and he begins to talk about the pressure and begins to reveal how that pressure is affecting him, and a couple of tears drop, then that again could trigger something in her. And then now it could be wind up being one or two things. It could be a mess where everybody's slobbering and crying all over each other, or yelling and screaming at each other, or it opens up an opportunity for both parties to be honest about the situation, and then you can really work it out. And it can conversely turn into something that brings you even closer together.
Okay. Guys, just tuning in. Welcome to King Talks. Make sure you hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Shout out to the sponsor, Teach Hanley Uncomplicated Skincare for Men. 30% off along with a free gift. That link is in the description. We do have a few super chats that came through. Andrew Dale, $2 says a husband can be won by the conduct of his wife. Andre Dale again, $2 says the lie is the end result of a chain of events. JB, what's going on, brother? Jonathan Barronville, $4.99. Also, member says my simple framework is I give myself 24 hours max to get over an obstacle or problem I encounter. It's hard to implement, but it changed my life. JB again, $4.99 says it might sound robotic to put a cap on my emotions like that, but in practice, it forces me to focus on solutions since I can't just curl up in the ball. Andre Dale again, $2 says improper vetting gets you into situations to be fake. I want to thank everybody that has contributed thus far. Much appreciated and much love. Let's go ahead and get into our next topic of tonight, which is, can your man lead you even when he's learning how to? Can your man lead you even when he's learning how to? Let me go ahead and play this clip.
Man lead you even when he's learning how to. That's a convicting question right there, because us women, we like information, we like details, because it provides a sense of security and stability. And this isn't bad, however, it can come from the wrong place. When we know all the details and we got the who, what, when, where, how, why, that's when we will determine if we move or not. But is that what it actually means to be led? When we have this mentality, we will unknowingly, number one, put a standard of perfection on that man. And number two, we will not give him room to grow as a leader. When you read the Bible, it says God told Abraham to leave his father and his mother's house and go into a land that he will show him. Now, I don't want to focus so much on Abraham. I want us to look at the life of Sarah. She followed her man even when she did not have that much information. And that must be something that we commend her for, right? So the revelation that she got out of this, the revelation that she had, and which I believe many of us women need to grab on hold to, is, can your trust be so deeply embedded in God that the trust that you have for your man is in the knowing that God will lead him?
All right, let's go ahead and hop into this topic. Can your man lead you even when he's learning how to? So he's not quite there, still learning. Can he still lead you? I'm gonna go ahead and go with Luis first. What are your thoughts about it, sir?
I would say that a lot of men are learning on the job. I would say that a lot of men are learning on the job. They're starting to learn how to properly lead in a relationship. They probably have never led in any relationship or ever seen a positive household where they've seen their father handle certain relationship dynamics with their mother and lead their family in a particular type of way. I think that leadership component is something that takes time to develop, with experience and being around other men and constantly learning, being a student of life. And yeah, I don't think I'm afraid to say that a lot of people are learning, you know what I'm saying? For those who have recently gotten married, you're just entering the marriage stage for the first time. So it's not like you have 20 years of marriage, right? You're learning this new experience, this new journey, of being married, right? So that is a bit of learning on the job as well. We don't have everything figured out, but I think that we have the right tool sets and the right, wherewithal to kind of steer ourselves and our partner in the right direction. And one of the things I do want to highlight and say, because she did bring up the Bible and she did have a biblical standpoint, a lot of people don't have the foundational principles in the foundational corner piece to lead their relationship properly. And one of the things that she highlighted in the video was how she had faith in her man because her man's faith was placed in God, and sort of that had led him to lead her in a prosperous way. And sort of unfortunately, a lot of people don't have a lot of virtuous principles, and sort of that's where I find that a lot of young men are failing at. Right? If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And I think that it's a very component that has to come back in these conversations is about that principle component. How you?
All right, Humble Dad HD. What's going on, brother? Can your man lead you even when he's learning how to?
Yes. I mean, if you're a leader, you should be able to lead anybody. But the thing of it is that everybody needs a different leader for the most part, right? Because every woman is different, and so there are certain aspects of your leadership style that's going to have to deal with a certain type of woman, and so therefore you're going to have to learn her. The Bible says that you should. How does it go? It says you should live and walk with your wife in an understanding manner. Like you got to understand her in order to lead her in the way that she needs to be led. So I think also she's more willing to follow you if you have a plan in place, and you're able to. She's able to see that you know how to manage, whether it's money, time, resources. Her emotions, your emotions. So there are different ways in which to do that. But ultimately, because women are different, men have to make sure that they know how to be a leader, and then understand what type of individual she is, so that you can lead her in a proper way. I liken it to being a manager. Yeah, I'm sure most of y'all have been a manager at some point, possibly. The people that are following you are different, and so you have to use different leadership tactics to make sure, management tactics to make sure that they are going to be on course with what it is that that you have to set, having to do. Or even if you're a parent, and you with multiple kids, you know that they are not the same, right? And you have to parent them according to who they are as individuals, and you're always learning as a parent. So because they're growing into different people, right? And so I would say, yes, as a man, you can lead and still be learning, because you're supposed to be understanding her, and she's not going to always be the same as she was from when you first met her.
All right, Sean Antonio, what are your thoughts about it, sir?
Yeah, I think the guys made some great points. Humble Dad said some of what I think. It's on the job training with anything. It's no different than going to a new company and you're a manager, just like Humble Dad said. And every culture is different. Every job requires different things. So you have to understand the culture, understand your human capital, and figure out what it takes to lead them. And so it's the same. I think too in relationships, I think there are different phases. There are different requirements. So when you get together, that's one phase. Before you have kids, that's a whole different leadership thing. But after you have kids, now you're leading a different group of people. You're leading a little one, and now you're trying to figure out what's in the best interest of the kid. So now you're planning. You got 529s you're thinking about. You got college savings and all types of investments and things like that. It's a totally different job before you have kids as opposed to once before you had. Y'all know what I'm saying. I'm tired. So I think there are different seasons, in leading your household, and it's on the job training, man. My daughter's about to be 17. Leading now is completely different. It's just completely different, bro. Like what she needed when she was 10, it's just different, man. So I just think I've never had a 17-year-old before. I've never had a little girl that's becoming a woman before, that didn't need me to tie her shoes, but needed me to guide her past these landmines that are little fuck boys. You know what I'm saying? So I think it looks different. But yeah, it's on the job training.
All right, Eric, on you, sir. Can your man lead you even when he's learning how to?
She has to let him lead when he's learning how to. Because again, life is always going to be throwing situations and circumstances at you that, depending on how young you're getting married or your experience, you're going to be dealing with things that you've never dealt with before. And it's a learning experience. Now, what I think a woman should be able to see in the midst of all of that is, like, who is he talking to? How is he learning? Who's mentoring him? Who's around him to teach him something other than saying, the stuff like, oh man, get over it. Or if he's talking to his wife and he goes to talk to a friend that says, you know what, she don't know what you're talking about, and this and that, and drives wedges in between you, your wife, and your family. It's an ongoing learning process. It has to be something that, you have to evolve. You have to continue to grow. And you're not going to always have the answers. I think a lot of the answers that we may have given tonight, in a lot of these circumstances and situations, are laced with all types of pressure. We've come with all these absolutes, right? But you know what? There's no man on this stage that's absolute. Everyone has stepped on a banana peel. Everybody has hit a pothole, and everyone has made a mistake. And the thing about it is, if we continue to put these types of pressures on ourselves, hey, we have to be the leader. Hey, we have to be able to do this. We have to be able to do that. And leaning back on the past subject, everybody will be crying sometime or another, whether it's within a relationship or it'll be a ruined relationship where people really have no understanding for what's really going on.
Do you always have to have your hands in something? If you're leading someone or leading your family or something, do you yourself have to always be present and have your hands into something in order to be actually leading? You know what I'm saying? I think
Give an example.
With the
please give an example of what you're talking about.
Like, for example, can you lead without being present? Like, can you delegate in a way where there is clear communication, there's integrity in the intent, right? And I think there's a linear process of communicating with someone, right? And that delegation allows you to lead without having to be physically present. I think sometimes when we talk about, leading, it feels like we have to be physically there, present at that moment. We can't be everywhere at once.
I think it's a nuance. I think it's a very nuanced subject. And I think that a true leader knows how to adjust. I think one of the biggest things in the midst of leadership that a lot of people dismiss and don't talk about enough is being dynamic. You have to be dynamic. You also have to be pliable, because if you're stiff and rigid all the time, you're going to lose somebody in that family. And how do I know? Because I did it. I was probably the most stiff, rigid person in the world. I was quoting every Bible scripture, and I was not showing grace to them. And of course, they're not going to show grace to me in my leadership. So even though I thought I was being a good leader, even delegating, even talking to people, it was still my attitude and the way that I was doing that. And I think that a lot of times that pressure comes upon us, right? And it's even whether we're delegating or not, but sometimes we have to show ourselves that grace so that the woman who is with us in our times where we lack leadership, because again, be honest, y'all not always going to be the greatest leaders all the time. You're just not. And when you allow yourself to think that and understand, and I ain't talking about be a punk all the time or be a simp all the time. I'm not saying that, but give yourself enough grace to know that you're going to F up. And then the woman that's with you needs to understand that too. And then that's the relationship that'll flourish.
All right. Let me go ahead and get to Sir Hill. What are your thoughts about it, sir?
So I think the gentlemen on the stage have said a lot of great stuff, to which I agree. But here's my contention. I believe that women are so focused on the whole dynamic of leaders that they don't spend enough time talking about followship. I say this all the time because I hear it's just really easy to talk about, I need a man who can lead. I need a man who can take initiative. I need a man who can take control, and I can rest in my femininity. You can have a man who has all the skills, a man who has all the knowledge, a man who's been there, done that. If that woman is not trained on how to follow a man like that, she will be a headache to him, right? So I think it's important that while absolutely can a man lead, he absolutely has to learn. If a man stops growing, and I shout out to brother Eric for what he said, if we're not malleable to the changes of life and to your kids growing up, and there's different things that are happening, different phases and stages. If you're not learning, you're not growing, and you're likely breaking your family apart. So you must. But to me, the true issue now is not about can a man lead, while he's learning. It's can a woman follow and keep on learning. Like, can she learn how to follow her man when he changes, or when the way he sees something changes, without being a headache? It's okay sharing her opinions and her thoughts. But I think what we have is a generation of women who tell men that they need to lead, and then they believe that they have the definition of what a man should do to lead, and they have no history of having a successful relationship with a man who leads, right? So I think for this, absolutely, man, we can lead while we're learning, but I think every woman should sit back, be quiet, and quit trying to tell men how to lead. Get an apron, learn how to cook, and figure out how to follow. Because women who figure out how to follow inspire their men to be even greater leaders.
Whoa, Sir Hill. Women fall into their role when the man is in his role, man. Women would actually like to be led if men were actually leaders today, bro. Men are not leaders today. Can I do like Marvel's spiel now? Because I got a really good one for this one. So can your man lead when he's learning? Let's think about this for a second, guys. A man being a leader 10,000 years ago was being able to make a fire and go hunt. It was very simple. A guy at 18, 19, 20 years old could have already started his family and been a leader of that family, because the boundary to become that was just making a fire, building a home, going hunting. These are things that we were able to do at a very young age. Now to be a leader, a man that is a leader, we're talking every year there's more and more shit you need to learn to be that guy today, to have that caliber. So these guys that are like 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, and we're sitting there expecting them to be a leader to a woman that's 20 years old, dude, there's so much more they need to learn. Men aren't going to become leaders now until they're 25 at the earliest, 30, 35. And then if you also add in hypergamy with women, oh man, it's not going to work. Like these women that are 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, they're having opportunities out the wazoo everywhere coming to them. There's no way you're going to look like a leader when you're 22, 23 years old, a year or two older than her, whenever she's comparing you to these guys that are fucking 5-10 years older than you, that she sees all over Instagram or all over her work or whatever it is, who are way bigger leaders than you already. So it's like we're sitting here trying to put like a square peg in like a round hole. It's not going to work anymore. That shit worked a long time ago, but now how relationships work, and especially with my generation, I don't know, guys aren't going to be leaders until their 30s, because they're not going to learn enough to become a real fucking leader. And when they meet a girl when they're 30 and they're a real leader, she's going to completely fall in line and want to be led by him. There's no convincing her of doing it. She's just going to naturally fall into it. And that would have happened a long time ago when life was simple as hell and there was just fires and hunting that needed to be done. And she was going to have that genuine desire for him because he's doing all those things. But it's not that simple anymore. It's way harder to make money. It's just not the same world that it used to be.
Purple pill.
Hello,
motherfucker. What evidence do you have that these women are willing to follow men that are already leaders? What evidence do we have of that?
I can show you time and time again, even with my own personal life. If you're that guy,
not your personal life, just show us in real what we can all see. Show me where men in their 30s or 40s are keeping these women in check, and these women are following them willingly. Show me, because they're complaining too. You hear about the passport bros? These are all men that can afford to go overseas. These ain't regular Joe Schmo guys.
Are you talking about losers that go and trick off overseas? Why are you even bringing them up?
My point is, I said they have the money to. They have the ability to move around this planet as free as a bird, and it costs a lot of money to do that. There's a lot of men complaining about women not being able to do the things that they should be doing. And you're telling me that these dudes, that there's evidence that men who go off and become the best version of themselves and women are falling in line with that.
Sweeney,
That's simply not true.
Sweeney, this is the sad reality of the world. Very few men are leaders today. Okay, very few. If you want to look at
Based on what?
basis,
Based on what?
But I'm saying being a real leader, like actually having your money together. But I'm talking to the point where like it's a tradcon relationship where like the wife can stay at home. She doesn't have to worry about working unless she wants to. Like where it's a fully tradcon relationship and stuff like that. A real leader, which is what women really want, is a real provider. Yeah, most guys
the women
ain't
are
that today, bro.
The women are
Most
on TikTok right now talking about how they ready to leave their husbands and all they do is sit at home and ain't got to worry about bills. They're talking about leaving their husbands right now.
Sweeney, because those guys are losers. There's such thing as beta bucks, bro. You literally just brought up Passport Bros, the biggest losers on the internet. Like you're bringing up you're literally bringing up the biggest. Just because somebody has money doesn't make them fucking a leader, bro.
But you don't know those men. How do you know those men?
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying
you're calling them losers, and I'm telling you,
Sweeney, I'm telling you, a guy that has money or that can trick
I didn't
off
say
doesn't
that.
make him a leader.
I didn't say that.
I'm just saying that
I
doesn't
didn't
make
say
a guy
that.
a leader.
I didn't say that. So you're arguing a point that I've never made. My point is that a lot of these men have their wives in positions where you just gave your example of what a leader is. He has his money straight and she can sit at home. That's what you came to the leader is. A guy that can have his money straight and she can be at home and be a stay-at-home wife and ain't got to worry about nothing.
Way more than Sweeney.
I'm going off of the example that you gave. You can't say there's more.
And be broke,
you can't say there's more to that. You can't say there's more to that. If that was your first example. That was your
example. That was your point, though. Like that was your point about the man and his money.
I know. But what I'm saying is just most guys aren't leaders, because in general, that's what makes a guy a leader is provisioning. Provisioning is what women have always looked up to.
So I just gave you an example that there are a lot of women right now on TikTok talking about leaving their provisioning and providing men. And you're calling them losers, but you don't know them.
Hold on, Sweeney. Let me repeat myself one more time, okay? You can have money and still be a loser, okay? You can be what's called a beta bucks, okay? It doesn't matter if he can provide everything for her, if he's a fat, ugly retard. It doesn't matter. So you got to understand, it's not just about the money. I'm telling you, very few men are leaders today, whether you want to base that off of provisioning or just them just being a leader of the household, even though they make $60K a year. It's very rare, bro. Most guys ain't shit today. I don't care what anybody says.
Most guys ain't shit today. Based on what?
1,000%. Based off the fact that they don't know how to be leaders. They don't know how to be leaders. 1,000%. They don't know how to be leaders. We see women all day today running households, making more than their men, completely having to have like
you just wrote it back to money. You just literally brought it right back to money again.
Because money is a factor, Sweeney. What are you talking about? Duh.
But you're making a circle. It's a circular argument.
What I'm saying is because obviously it's a factor. There's nuance to it, guys. It's not black and white.
But you're making it black and white.
What are you talking about? Nobody's making it black and white. I just think that there's a lot of guys that are the only thing that I'm saying that's black and white is there's not a lot of leaders today. That most men ain't shit today.
Okay, I can agree. There's not that many leaders, but I just want to answer the question, right?
But hey, let me ask Purple Pill one question. How old are you, bro?
32.
Because a lot of this is nuanced in age, what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
How old are you?
I'm 32. I just said.
Okay, go ahead, Hank. I just wanted to throw that out there, and that may give some context to some of the things he was saying. Okay, go ahead.
So, can a man be a leader even when he's learning how? I believe so. I believe so because you're always going to be learning. You're always going to be learning. Because things going to change every day. There's going to be some new obstacles. There are going to be some new situations. Life's going to throw you a bunch of curveball, and there's some situations you never dealt with before. But as long as you have your morals, your standards, and what you need to be as a leader, you'll be fine. Regardless of whatever happens, you will be fine. But your morals got to be in order. You got to make sure you stay 10 toes on your square. And as long as your standards and where they need to be at, yeah, you good. So yeah, you can be that leader you're talking about. Now, this part about does it take money and all that? No, I don't believe that, because we had a lot of great leaders that was broke as hell. One of our great leaders, Martin Luther King, didn't have no money like that. Malcolm X, he didn't have no money like that. Fred Hampton didn't have no money like that, but they was great leaders. So
I think a lot of what leadership is predicated upon is the 1 minute clips on Instagram. For real, like so many people try to tell you what the hell a leader is, and nobody won't go that extra step of maybe cracking open a book. That's a novel idea. Or, going to talk to somebody that's actually doing something that you'd like to do. Let me tell y'all something, man. And this to all the young boys. Man, find you an OG that's been married for a while, like a dude that's been married for a while, and really have a real conversation with him. Take that dude out to dinner, break it down with him, and man, he will tell you everything from probably when he cheated on his woman and she forgave him, to a time that she cried and she's called him a punk ass mother. You know what I'm saying? Or even this conversation right here, man, about leadership. One of the things that we have to do is get out of our comfort zone and begin to find ways to learn something about what we're doing other than these screens. Our lives are dominated by these screens. And you know what? When you do that, then leadership will creep into your life. That's for sure.
So I think it's a few factors, right? First off, like Sir Hale was saying a little earlier, the woman, she has to want to, right? She has to be willing to follow. She has to want to be led by you, right? Secondly, I would say yes to trust in your leadership. So if she sees that you are making some horrible decisions early, particularly financially or anything like that, then she's all right, I can't really trust in his leadership because he's going to lead us down the wrong path and it's going to ruin both of our lives. This ain't a dude that I want to have a future with, right? And thirdly, which is probably most important, she has to respect you to be led by you. So if she doesn't respect you, you can forget about trying to lead her under any circumstances. So most of the gentlemen did mention it. It's obvious that we're learning every single day. So it's always going to be, like we were saying earlier, on a job training. You're not going to know everything. We have to continue to progress. We should be trying to learn new different things, right? Like say parenting, for instance. Me and my wife, we learn how to parent together. So there's certain situations that you just have to experience and you won't know how to do it, but you'll learn how to do it. But if she trusts in your leadership, she'll follow you with that, right? Trying to buy our first home. It was a situation like, okay, I don't know nothing about that, but we were able to get through it. She did trust in my leadership. Boom. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. And she helped in everything that she could, but at least she's able to understand, okay, you lead the situation. I'm with you on it. Right. But it's all with those three foundations that we were talking about. It's with the trust. They have to trust it, but trust is earned. So in the beginning phases, when you're with this particular lady, you need to make sure that she sees you making good decisions so she can trust you, because if not, it's over. And of course, we were talking about the vetting process a little earlier. You have to make sure that you pick a lady who is willing to listen. She's not going to start to listen to you because you're married now or because you came to another phase. However it starts, it's going to end that way. And as far as respect is concerned, I feel like this about it. Respect is hard to gain, easy to lose, and impossible to get back once you've had it and lost it.
Hey Trev, one thing about what you said though, and I'm gonna drop it in the room. Real talk. Y'all getting stuck on that vetting thing, man. Life gonna be life, man. How things start aren't always how they end. It's just no, because there's too many things that happen in life that's going to make you change. Let me tell you something, man. That woman that you marry in the beginning is not going to be that same woman 10 years later, because she will have lost jobs. She may have lost a baby. All those things are going to happen during that time. Now, that vetting process may have gotten you married, but I'm telling you, there are going to be some things. There's going to be a brick that's going to hit you in the side of the head, in that blind spot, man, whereas it's going to challenge that relationship. Real relationships that last a long time, bruh,
It's just a decision to stay.
Well, check this out. Check this out. Just like I spoke of earlier, right? There is such a thing as that Trojan horse situation. They come in one way, things change, right? You can't eliminate any particular risk, right? But there are things that you can do to mitigate risk. If you find out that the woman doesn't respect you off rip, why would you go ahead and continue to try to further it, right?
But I'm
that's
not.
what I'm saying.
I'm not going to that extent. What I'm saying is that woman could totally respect you. She can totally love you. She can totally support you, and all of that could be happening. It's not a Trojan horse, whereas some other woman's going to jump out and she's going to be, hi, I'm the real woman. No, it's not going to be that. What I'm saying is life going to be life, man. And life does change people, man. When you take certain amount of blows, man, certain things begin to happen. If you're in a fight, and if I keep jabbing you in your nose, man, you're going to start flinching back because I'm hitting you in your nose. Relationships are the same way. When circumstances and situations keep hitting you a certain way, you do act differently. That's why when leadership comes in, it notices that. And then you go get the therapy, you go get the help, you go talk to an OG, she goes talk to her auntie, whatever. Then that's where the relationship can mature to the point whereas things get better. But the vetting, that's cool, but things do change over time. They do.
But that's only one part of it, right? And you can't skip that part. You have to look at what you're getting into. You have to take time to get to know a person. That's just part of it. I'm not saying that's the end all be all. And I understand that people change, but it's something that you can't ignore. You have to vet. You have to make sure that they have personality traits, that they have the same core values as you. You want to take time to vet this person so you realize, okay, this is somebody that I think that I could live with. There's always going to be circumstances. It's not that's out of your control, but it's an important step that you can't skip in order to mitigate.
I'm not saying skip that. I never said that.
Okay.
What I said was that's cool you do all that. But man, it's just like a car, man. You buy a car, man, you're gonna kick the tires, you're gonna do everything. You might even take the car to the mechanic. Keep that car for 10 years though. Keep that car for 10 years. I bet you something gonna wear out. I bet you a belt gonna break. I bet you something gonna happen to that car. So it's going to change as you drive it. A relationship changes as you're in it, as you're living it every single day. That's my point.
Yeah.
You got to
now, so even with that,
it's gonna change.
So even with that, right?
So if you say
there's certain things
vet it, and then the Trojan horse comes after that. I mean, what's the Trojan horse? Like you got, and then if it's something, then be a little more specific. I guess that's all I'm saying.
So even the car example you used, right? You're saying after 10 years things are going to wear down. Now, just say I buy a 2010 Camry versus a 2010 BMW. You know for a fact that BMW is going to be much more cost to you than if you had that Camry, because the cost of ownership is just crazy and they're less reliable. So you can't eliminate it. Something still could go wrong with the Camry, but it's a lot less likely for something to happen to that Camry than it will with that BMW. There's no doubt about that. It's just mitigating the risk. And I would never say get hung up on it, but it's something that you have to do. That's all I'm saying. It's important. It's important. It's an important part of the process.
Trev, you remember a few weeks ago, right? We was talking about this very topic on Lapeef Let's Talk, right? You remember when I asked that woman, I said, what is it that the average woman does that makes her above being led by the average man? You remember her response?
Nah. Refresh my memory.
She said she said that the simple fact that they are sought after and that she can make a baby. That makes her above being led by the average man.
Yeah. And that's see that, but that's what we did as a society, right? This feminism definitely helped with that. I feel like we're actually overvaluing women, right? Because when you think that, if you were to ask me, I'd say it's 50-50, right? Some men say, no, we're the ones bringing life. Women say that. But at the end of the day, you need both partners to have a baby naturally, right? So you can't put yourself above for that. That's a factor that cancels out, period.
And the reason why I brought that up, right? It's because just today there was this woman on TikTok again. TikTok is a wild place, y'all.
Yeah,
And
TikTok's
she was
wild.
talking about, she was looking to her father and speaking of her father as the type of man that she would want her man to be, right? But what I think where a lot of women get wrong, and she looked at her father and said, "Oh, he led in everything. He was the leader. He was this, that, and the third." And I'm like, yeah, but what the problem that we have is that we look to our parents, but we look to them through a child's eyes. Of course, your father's gonna look like a leader to you. He's supposed to lead you. He's your dad. But what they fail to realize is what was the dynamic between your father and your mother is what you really should be looking at. And then more importantly, you should be looking towards your mother for the way you should be behaving in a relationship as a woman. Because while she was looking at her father the entire time and idolizing him, she didn't learn shit from her mom. And that's the problem. That's the biggest problem that we have when it comes to this, because the reality is the average man can lead the average woman, because most of us is just doing regular, normal shit. You ain't doing nothing that spectacular in your life to make you above being led by the average man. He knows how to do what you do. Both of y'all learn on the job as y'all go. But what happens is that we look to these outside sources and we look to these other people and we say, oh, that's what a leader is. That's what it is. But you're looking from the outside, you're looking from the outside. You don't know the inner workings of their relationship. You're looking at your dad as the leader, but you don't know that how many times he done consulted with your mom. You don't know how many times she done had a decision in a play, but you don't know about it. But also, you don't even know that your mom is choosing to be quiet because she knows that she trusts him. You don't know that your mom is choosing to follow your father. You don't know that she understands the assignment because you never go to your mom to have a conversation with her about, hey, mom, how do I deal with a man? Most people don't get along with each other anymore. Most of the reason why these relationships don't work ain't because a man lacks leadership. It's because they just don't get along. And people are quick to jump out of situations when shit get hard.
Man, there's lots of books on this stuff. Like we're totally able to like read, books on evolutionary psychology and know why things happen, why women think this way, why breakups happen, why cheating happens. Like there's reasons behind all this stuff, but we like to just say it's because they're just bad women, like women are doing it. It's like, no, it's just their nature sometimes, man. Like I don't blame a woman that's not gonna act accordingly with a man if he's not being a man and he's not
most
being
men are men.
But I just interview these girls every week, bro, and I can't blame them because sometimes these guys are losers. And then I do blame them for why are you choosing these losers? But dude, a lot of guys are not leaders today. And like like we put a lot of blame on women, but it's just like, man, it's really the guys, bro. If the guys were that guy, a lot of these women fall into line. Like if you are the type of guy that you're supposed to be, women want to be a woman. Like they want a family. They want to have kids. Like this is all naturally hardwired in them. Yes, our society and feminism like really brainwashes them and tries to think that they need to be a boss babe and stuff. But dude, it's not always like that. Women
you can't say both of those statements at the same time and try to make it make sense. You can't say women want to be women and then say all feminism and everything else made them not women. They're not
because brainwashing takes
while
years to
saying
happen.
that most men are just losers. Like
while saying at the same time most men are losers.
Yeah, man.
It's like what I hear you doing.
Bro. I speak nothing but
like what I hear is like you're taking the stories of women and you say read books on all of this, but you're taking the anecdotal experiences of these women and then saying that this is enough information to base whether or not most men are losers, when the fact is most men are hard-working men. Might not be the most athletic or talented, but most men are men. I think that we need to stop talking and saying things like this because it sounds good for you two, but for people who are out there really working, and let's say they ain't making six figures, but they work really hard. They've been driving the bus for 15, 20 years, or they've been at the mill. Like we love to say men built the planet while at the same time saying most men are not men because they're not doing a certain thing. It's like it's double talk. And I think we got to get to the place where the respect we have for men, is not based off of the amount of money. And then the biggest thing is quit basing your masculinity off of what women say that they want. Because a lot of women say that they want a particular kind of man and these characteristics, get bored and go cheat. So we got to have some honesty here. And while I do agree with reading books, there was nothing like life and lived experience. So you resource all you want to, but until you live life enough, it's just going to be, we're quoting stats and quoting what other people experience. But in real life, most men are hardworking men and simply want a good woman who will appreciate that.
Sir, how old are you again?
Purple Pill, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you one question, bro. So you interview people. So are they in your age range?
I do full panels of women anywhere from the age of 18 up. I've had a 48-year-old woman on. So 18 to 48.
Okay. And you said you interviewed
multiple
guys,
women, all demographics.
And then the guys.
No, I only have women on. I only have women on. No, my panels are no.
Oh, so you only have women on. So then my next question is this. Do you have a mentor and someone that helps you and talks to you about some of the things that you talk to? Do you have anybody?
I wouldn't be a business owner of 3 different businesses if it wasn't for
No.
mentors that got me to this point.
I don't need you to qualify it. It's just because
I totally get what you're doing right now, bro. I totally get what you're saying right now, bro. And what you don't understand is you don't know anything about me, bro. Like I have some of the biggest mentors in the space.
I'm asking you questions. Stop being defensive. I'm asking you questions.
I'm trying to explain you
understand.
and let me answer them. You didn't even let me answer it. Yes, I have mentors. I have multiple. Yes, you didn't even let me answer it, bro. Let me answer. Yes, I have multiple mentors that own business. I have multiple mentors that own businesses. I have multiple mentors in the YouTube space. I have multiple mentors that teach mentorship programs. I also teach a mentorship. Okay, so yes, I do have multiple people above me, and I wouldn't be successful at anything that I do if it wasn't for me looking up to them, is what I was trying to say.
Okay, that's fine, bro. But can we all just get along?
Yeah, we can. No, like, what was your next? What was your next question?
Wait, I got a question. I got a question about Purple Pill. So just moments ago, as Eric was asking a question, you said, Eric, you don't know anything about me. But you just said of these women who you were interviewing have these stories about these dudes, you don't know them. Like that's the whole point that I'm trying to make. It's so easy when it's about you to say you don't know me, so you don't have any detail. But you were doing this. Listen, Purple Pill. Listen, what you're doing is what you don't want done to you, and that's what we keep on doing to men. We keep on saying most men are losers, and the truth is you haven't talked to most men.
I mentor men. I know they're losers. See, this is why I want to ask you, sir. How old are you again?
I am. I'll be 36 next month.
Jesus Christ!
You're gonna be 36 next month. Okay, so you're just a little bit older than me. My generation, bro, when I look around at my peers, there are a bunch of losers playing video games, especially
that's
the ones
false.
I went
I'm
to
in the
high
same
school
generation.
and all that. Okay, well
that's
great.
false. I'm in the same generation.
Aren't doing that. Okay, that's great. That's for your friends. Okay,
so
but
you got loser friends.
Everybody that I see, they're all yes. There's a lot of people from my grade.
That's your friends.
No.
I don't have losers around me.
I don't have losers around me.
Look,
but you're basing your analysis off of the fact that you have a bunch of loser friends.
I don't understand how
you base your analysis on most men off of your circle of friends.
How could you sit here and say that there isn't a bunch of men that are addicted to porn, addicted to video games?
No, we didn't say that there's a bunch. We said that that's not most.
We said that's
language
not
is important. No one said it's not a lot. No one said it's not a bunch. We're saying it's most men. That's a big word. Most men are not losers.
You got to understand that this all goes back to the financial capability of a man, because we were supposed to be providers.
But it's not all about money, Purple Pill. It's not all about money.
You keep going back to money.
And still be a lane. I'm just using your logic.
Because the reason why I keep bringing up the money is because it's all based off the economy. Do you think that we were arguing over the devaluation of the dollar thousands of years ago? No, because it wasn't a thing, and the value's been devalued to a point where the women have to go to work. They put them into the workforce in the 70s to double the tax bracket so they would make more money off us, so the GDP would go up. Women are 80% of the consumer base. This all goes back to money. Like, the only reason why I sit here and say men need to be better is because the money. Yeah, it is all part of the plan. But the only way that we can fix it is by men stepping up as much as physically possible and being the best that we can fucking be. Men have to get better.
The problem with that ideology, right, is that you're associating, and this is a problem that I think we do nowadays. We associate the idea of masculinity with finances. So now if you can't provide finances, somehow you're not masculine or somehow you're not a leader. And none of that even equates. Those aren't the same thing. And I feel like that's exactly what feminism wanted to do. The reason why feminism wanted to give women money was for the very purpose of being able to undermine you, because they're going to value the money more than they value your leadership. So I'm not understanding how that equates. I think
so the way that you reverse that is by making more money. That's why I'm trying to teach you. Make more. Guys need to be providers. You can reverse the issue. A woman falls into her role when a guy is in his role. Most guys, though, if even the guys with a bunch of money, they act like beta bucks losers. So, like, you can't just have money. You got to have money, have game, have frame, have muscles. You got to have all of it. You can't be a loser anymore. My biggest message is you just have to become the best you can be as a man today. You can't be average. If you want to be an average guy, be okay with your woman possibly cheating on you in the future. Be okay on all types of bad shit happening to you, because average isn't good anymore. Average isn't working.
Video, right? Everything we're talking about right now goes back to the video. In the video, the woman gave an example, right? And the example she used, I believe, was a religious example where she's saying essentially whichever religious figure's wife that she was talking about had to follow him. And I feel like a lot of times we talk about leaders and we talk about like the results of leadership. So, okay, this guy's a leader and his leadership has caused him to be rich, powerful, all of that. But leadership, all in all, if we want to call it what it is just vision. And at the end of the day, the leader is the person who's blessed with the vision to be able to have the idea, to be able to see the future, right? And I feel like the real problem we're having with men today is not that a bunch of men are leaders. It's just that men do not have a lot of opportunities to actualize their visions except through finances. So a lot of times, the reason why a man can't actualize his vision is because he has no followers. He has no one who believes in his vision to help his vision come through. He has no one to delegate the task to. It's not because he's lacking in some ability. It's just that he's not in the right position. I personally believe if you give any man on this planet, you put him in the right situation and you give him the right team, you'll see how good of a leader he can be. So I think a lot of it falls back on, like, we talk about men got to be leaders, men got to be leaders, men got to be leaders, but we're also training the women to be leaders. So who's being trained to be the followers? Everybody can't be leaders. You know what I'm saying? It's the same with like so many industries today, right? Music. Everyone's a musician, but how many people are listeners? How many people are just fans? And that's part of the problem. People don't even know how to be fans anymore. And that's why the music industry suffers. And it's the same thing with relationships. Forget talking about leadership. Do you know how to follow? Do you know how to be led? Are these women coachable, leadable? I don't care how good of a coach you are if you do not have players that are open-minded and moldable. It doesn't matter, because you can't play the game as the coach by yourself. So the only way you can prove your coaching ability, right, is by having people who are obeying your rules. Now, people might say, oh, I don't like his style. He doesn't know how to coach. But if someone actually follows his vision through, then you'll see the results. And that guy who was seen as unorthodox and not a great leader, he's bringing home championships. Why? Because it took someone to trust his vision. So yes, we can continue to say that men need to lead and get more money and XYZ, but getting more money is not going to solve the problem. We love talking about money, but the reality is money is finite. You can say you may not want to believe that, but there's only so much money. When money is spent, someone has to let go of the money in order to give it to someone else. Money's not just this infinite thing, and everybody can't just get rich. So the reality is that being a good leader means that whether you got money or not, you know how to be a good steward over it. You know how to control it. You know how to run it. You know how to use it. We need to be teaching that a little bit more, but we also need to be talking about the lack of followers and the lack of people who are willing to listen.
So I think there's always the situation. There's always a bell curve, right? And men were able to get respect before without being rich, right? It didn't matter if you were able to provide it. They respected you because of your character. It was so different, right? And even when women first began to work, it wasn't this bad. It wasn't this bad. There's so many problems with that because it's like if we start getting like, because I always tell people, listen, do the best that you can to earn as much as you want, because it's absolutely an important factor, right? Be the best version of yourself in every form, period, just because you want to absolutely increase the possibility of you obtaining, your best mate. Those are all very important. But it's like, what happens when people start to listen to us and then they all start to increase? What really happens? Does the bar get raised again? Like how are you ever going to be elite? We can't all be elite.
A new bottom. Yep.
Yeah, there's a new bottom. So
Exactly.
I think we have to go deeper than that. Somehow we have to figure out a way for people to appreciate the average man. Like people don't value it anymore. We've switched and it became finances, and that's the reality of it. Purple Pill's right about that. It's the reality that a lot of these women just care about the bucks for real, and that's going to be the primary factor that they look for, right? The new age women, that's how they come. It's unfortunate, but what can we do as men to mitigate that? How do we stop?
There is no
women from just
mitigating
wanting
it.
to become?
If they want to do that, if women, if what, let's just grant Purple Pill's argument. Most women want the boss. Let's just grant it. There's only a few bosses out there, so all of them chasing the same dude, right? And we're saying, well, what can men do about it? There ain't shit you can do at that point because y'all all can't be bosses. So what is that? So where does that leave the women and the men that can't obtain it? Do they just be single and not deal with one another, and they both go off into their single world and be awkward ass people who don't know how to deal with the other opposite sex? Or do they find a way to work it out? Because you don't build a planet with only 20% of the people doing all the work and the other ones just sitting on their ass not working. You can't build a society on that. It's not sustainable. So what do we, because we keep talking about it like, oh, well, everybody needs to, you just got to level up and be a boss. Well, everybody can't make it. So where does that leave the other 80% of people? Because it ain't just men that's not going to get any. Because if all the women, because these women want these same boss men to be faithful and to be and to stay in relationships and not go out and stay, they want faithful bosses. So if these men live up to that standard and they're faithful and they deal with one woman and there's no more of those men left, and those women then went off and got married to these men, where does that leave the 80% of people now?
And I've heard an alarming stat. I want to know if anybody's familiar with this accuracy. They're saying that 20% of men are creating 80% of the babies.
I'm not.
Yeah, because that sounds pretty disgusting to me.
Yeah.
We do understand that there's two types of men who are getting most of the women, right? You got your Pookies and Ray Rays who they have enough charisma, enough excitement, right? Enough thrill to get it. And then we have the people at the very top. And there's a lot of men that are in the middle that is having great difficulty obtaining women.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, and Purple, this is to you. I'm not saying this is the thing that you never heard. I never said you was wrong. But the one thing you say, I talk to a lot. I talk to many, but you didn't present one number, one percentage, one stat to support anything that you said. And that's why people like Sir Hale and other people on this platform said that to you. Now, guess what? A lot of what you said, I agree with. And if you talk to all these people and you have the wherewithal to get this information, bruh, get the numbers. Because numbers don't lie, but the opinions
I have them.
men
Which number do you
are
want?
wrong.
Which number do you want? I have all of them. If you watched my show before, you would know I'm a numbers guy, bro. I'm a numbers guy. So which one do you need?
No, but what I'm saying is that in your argument here, just start presenting them sometime. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm just gonna say I'm not even gonna say there's not stats for everything. There's not a stat for if men are broke and if men are losers. I will give you some. So women are graduating at 60% of the rate compared to men, 40% of the rate from college. Women are out earning men in most major cities in America today. So because of stats like that, yeah, there's an imbalance going on in the household where most women are making most of the money, even if it's just a little bit more, even if it's 70K to his 50K. That imbalance is making it to where men ain't shit. That little 20K imbalance is making it hard for the woman to not have their hypergamy kick in and not be able to accept him being the leader in the household. I talk to women about this on my show all the time. I'll say, have you been with the guy who made 10K less than you, 20K less than you? And they always bring up, yeah, and they will give me personal experiences where they couldn't handle letting him be the leader. And so I'm just letting y'all know from that. And there's some stats. I gave you a couple stats, about the women. So it all comes back to that. It all comes back to women's finances and how much money women make today compared to men. And it all goes back to that. And it wouldn't be this way if it wasn't for the fact that we pushed women to the workforce. We made them, boss babes and all this stuff. And that's what made the imbalance happen. I'm not mad at men. I just want men to be better. To
Majority of men,
we can't make men not be, or we can't make women not be boss babes anymore. We can't force women out of the workplace. That's not ever going to happen. So the only other solution is make men the best they can fucking be. And there's nothing wrong with making men better men and making men leaders. Like there's nothing wrong with the things that I'm saying.
Bro, majority of men on average still out earn women.
But even to that point,
regardless,
even to that point, though,
right? But it doesn't matter the tax bracket. There's always more men in that tax bracket than women.
But the bigger point, even if women do out earn, they also carry more of that consumer debt. So it doesn't matter if you're making $70,000, $80,000 if you've got $30,000 to $40,000 in debt. So in talking about numbers, you got to talk about all of it. So on paper, making $70,000, but how much of those student loan payments per month? How much do you owe in credit cards? That's the real stuff we got to get to.
But the woman's not thinking that whenever she's making 70K and he's making 50K.
No, forget the women. I'm talking about us as men. Like I'm saying, if you throw those numbers out there without the other details, you can certainly massage it and paint a picture that doesn't really exist when you really account for the real life, the hole that a lot of our women are in. And the last part is we didn't put women we didn't force them in. If you go back to why they had to get in, it was because of the war. Men came back and they weren't able to work, and so women had to get into the workforce. This is why I believe in the first wave feminism. They had to work to take care of their families. So it wasn't that we were pushing them out and we forced them. It was life. We have the luxury. We have the luxury of talking about this, not really realizing what people had to suffer and why things are the way that it is now. We are just making a mess of stuff right now. But if you really trace this back, it wasn't like this. People understood the value of family, understood the value of a dollar, and understood the meaning of life. We've lost sight of all those things, and that's why we're having these conversations about modern women. You got to have this money, have a big dick. You got to have a great career and be a boss, and then maybe she'll love you and won't cheat on you. Because we are delusional as a culture because we don't know the meaning of a dollar, the meaning of family, and certainly don't understand the meaning of life.
Let me ask you a question, Purple Pill. Because you said something, right? You said that you asked most women about their experiences when they out-earned their man. Did you ever rebut that and ask them, well, what about the scenarios where he out-earned you? How was that? Why did that relationship fall apart?
Whenever he out-earned them, why did the relationship fall apart?
Yeah.
Multiple reasons. Because he's working too much and not giving her attention. Or,
Okay.
There's multiple
reasons. I get what you're saying. So basically, here's the thing. People are going to come up with a number of reasons as the reason why they had to leave someone. It doesn't matter whether they rich or poor, richer or poor. It doesn't really matter. If you ask somebody and they have to come up with a reason as to why that relationship break down, they're going to give you a reason. That doesn't mean that the group that they're talking about are losers. Oftentimes, we see that people tend to, from my experience, when I hear people talk about relationships or why their relationships fail, right? They often like to talk about all the negative things that the person opposite of them did, and often want to paint themselves in a veil of virtue, right? So, can you leave room for the possibility that a lot of the women that come on your panels don't really speak in good faith about the men that they deal with?
1,000%. Yeah, no, I want you to understand a lot of this is my bias based off of me teaching men who literally aren't shit. Like I'm constantly talking to guys every day, multiple times a day that are failures at everything in their life, and I'm trying to pick them up and make them better. So yes, like I constantly am having a bias based off of me seeing that. But man, I just see it everywhere. I'm arguing with the red pill space constantly, daily. I just did a debate with Rolo last week, and it's literally a bunch of incel red pillars that were fucking arguing against me the whole time. Y'all gotta understand, like I see a lot of men, and I coach a lot of men. The reason why I even got into this stuff was because I saw there were so many men that were failing at everything in life. Like this is the whole reason why I even got into it. So we might have a panel of men on here on King Talk, and we got some kings here, and there's a lot of good people that watch these channels and stuff. But man, there's a whole section of the internet that is a bunch of actual loser dudes that need a lot of help, bro.
And you're
That like
right,
that
and that may be
middle
You
true,
know
but have
what,
you?
Purple Pill, one
Right,
thing.
we got
So
to
this was
transition.
the first time, right? I'm gonna say this, bro. That statement that you just said right there at the end made a lot of what you said earlier more digestible, because now I see why you're passionate. Now I see why you're coming at everybody the way that you're coming. Because if you're having those types of encounters with those types of men, then what happens is that gets all over you. And now anything that sounds even close to that, you coming at. So now I get it. Now I understand. And it makes more sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's making more sense to me now.
Let me add one more thing to that, because my wife used to say this all the time. She would come to me with some video, right? And we actually hear a lot of people say this, right? They'd be like, they'd make a video about a specific topic. And then there's a lot of people that will come in and disagree with the video, right? But then you will always see somebody in the comments and say, well, don't you see all these people saying that this was their experience? Don't you see all these people? Well, that's because the video in itself created a niche audience or a niche type of scenario. So, and I agree with you. When you go into these red pill spaces, you see a lot of wild shit. But that's because if you think about the conversations that are created on those spaces, it opens up the dynamic to have those type of men come in. But like, you know what I mean? But if you get a balance of, you come to Lapeef Let's Talk, or you come to the Lapeef Network, or you go to like MTR or a lot of other different places, and then you actually go out into the real world, because I talk to men every day because I'm a barber. You know what I mean? And you start experiencing men for real, you start to understand that maybe the only reason why I saw that type of behavior from those men is because that was just the space that those men are in. But when I go out there in the real world, I recognize that, hey, no, men ain't losers, because if most men were losers, this world wouldn't work. Our country wouldn't work. We would be we would fail miserably, because most men wouldn't be out there. Most men would be losers. But I don't see that in real life. I do see it on YouTube a lot. I agree with you. I see a lot of bullshit on YouTube, but I see it on both sides. I see a bunch of loser ass women. I see a bunch of loser ass men. But I have to recognize that this is not a real place. This is just a niche audience that was created by a niche topic, that was created by a niche person who wanted to just talk about what they wanted to talk about, and have an amen section of a bunch of people that want to agree with them.
Yeah, I get that part. So I could attest to that, because my DMs look very different than my circle in real life. It looks better. It looks different than what I might look on YouTube. It's crazy, because that's all I get. A lot of people who need help, people who don't know how to navigate through life, people who having trouble getting money, people who have trouble acquiring females. And I feel fortunate that I'm able to be exposed to other things. And a lot of times we go into certain spaces, whether it be red pill or otherwise, you're in an echo chamber, and you hear all these things over and over. And it's very easy to become indoctrinated just because of the content that you're consuming. So and then you have the support. You have all these other people. If you watch some of these some content, right, you'll see the trolls in there. They're all going, and they're all, and you feel like there's so many people that think like that, because you're all in that community, and you feel like everybody really feels like this because that's all you see. You'll see hundreds or maybe thousands of comments per show, and they all have the same idea: kill the 304. And you're like, damn, what's going on? You know what I mean? That's how they feel. And if you only are exposed to that, and the algorithms don't help you, because once they see you, they will throw you all the way down the rabbit hole. That's what they support, because, oh, you like this? Let me throw this. Hey, watch this. Here, watch some more content like this. And then you could seriously obtain a completely different ideology than you had before, based on content that you watch, because that becomes your reality.
All right. What's going on, Trey? Welcome to the show, bro. So you're in the chat. What you got for him? All right. Kind of sound like he was agreeing with you, Purple Pill. Yeah, we can.
Mic check. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, bro.
You good? What up,
All right. Yeah, man. I'm sitting back. I'm watching this shit, man. I'm quite frankly disgusted at a lot of these excuses that I'm hearing on this stage tonight, man. In terms of what it takes for men to have success with women, I think that we blame women a lot. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of women who just lost as hell out here. We gonna keep it G, but I think a lot of it boils down to men get complacent in terms of what it is that they're good at. And especially in these spaces, I hear a lot of talk about money. For some reason, people are under the impression that money is going to like make up for all your other deficiencies. It's a lot of people that are out here who have money are awkward as hell. No conversation skills, no charisma. Be around these women and you like, I've literally been in a room with some of these people and watched them talk to women. And it's like listening to fucking fingernails on a chalkboard. So it's way more to it than money. It's charisma. It's being engaging. Like are you fun to even talk to as a man? A lot of niggas ain't. They not. And they think that the money is gonna mask that. Which is why I tell people all the time, like if money mattered that much, Bill Gates would not be divorced. Jeff Bezos would not be divorced. Michael Jordan would not have got a divorce. Tiger Woods would still be married. If money was that fucking important, it's not. It's the other shit that y'all lack and refuse to work on. It's just like a nigga in basketball or something. You play great defense and you pass well. And in the offseason, you continue to practice defense and passing. Defense and passing is not your weakness. You're a terrible fucking shooter. Get in the gym and put up jump shots. But men don't do that. They continue to say, you know what? I'm struggling with women. So my solution, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna try to make more money. Because I feel like the money is gonna fix it. The money is not gonna fix it. You have a lot of other deficiencies that your ass need to work on in terms of a relationship, lasting long term, emotional intelligence. A lot of men have zero connection with their woman from an emotional perspective. And are proud of it. He'd be like, well, I mean, I'm paying the bills. I mean, I'm putting a roof over your head. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, sure. But none of that shit is going to keep a woman long term. And if you've been in a long-term relationship, you understand that. But again, instead of working on these things, you kind of shun them. You kind of just, it ain't that important. I forget it. I'll just get to the money. Or I'll try to fly out to fucking Taiwan and finesse a woman who don't know no better until she actually experiences you and gets to know who you really are, get to know how awkward your ass is, get to know how terrible your conversation is, get to know how out of shape your ass is, and she start treating you just like the women here that you try to run away from. Which is ironic. We sitting up here seeing a lot of these quote-unquote passport bros out there getting smacked with reality out there. I was watching a clip the other day where an Asian chick was down there made dude cry. You fat, you out of shape. Your conversation, you have no confidence. You this grown-ass man, 40, 50-year-old crying. Why? Because he thought the money is going to fix the shit. No, the money alone is not going to do it. And as long as men think that, you're going to continue to struggle with women. You need to work on your social skills. You have horrible conversation. You don't have confidence. You don't have charisma. You're not fun to talk to. You're not fun to be around. You just a dude that's out here focused on your career and you think everything else is supposed to fall into place. It's not. So for us to sit here and just point it's women, it's women, it's women, it's women. Don't get me wrong. Women play a role. But again, if men are the leaders that we claim to be, it's like I say all the time, if you're the man that you claim to be, your options are going to reflect that. I can get a divorce tomorrow. It's not going to take me long to find a new woman. It's not. Because I am the man that I say I am. A lot of niggas ain't. And instead of going to fix it, go to that gym and work on a jump shot, your ass go in there and continue to work on defense and wonder why you're not having success. That's the problem. So that's all I want to add.
I would say I don't think anybody made the argument that that money was the only way. I don't think anybody's made that argument. I would say me personally, I was just using Purple Pill's argument against him because he made the argument because he kept using the argument of money. And I'm like, well, if money was the factor, then exactly the examples that you gave. I'm like, well, then why is there so many women on TikTok right now talking about divorcing their husbands who make money? So that was my only reason why I was arguing against money. But I responded to you back in the chat. I think most people are sufficient when it comes to communication, sufficient enough to deal with the average person. I'm not saying that everybody's going to be like, there's going to be some dudes out there that's going to have the ability to talk the draws off a woman, and that's absolutely true. But I think most people either are, we can look at this two different ways, right? We can either look at most people as sufficient and just getting from one side of life to the next, or we can look at everybody as deficient. Because I always say, by the laws of averages, if we're saying most men are trash and most men don't have the ability to do X, Y, Z, then we have to say that most women aren't that either, or that they don't have the ability to follow. They don't have the ability to do this, because, and then at that point we would just basically say that most people are trash. And I just don't see that. I don't see most people as trash. I see most people as with the ability to be able to do what they need to do, but they don't know how to do with one another. I just think we missed the assignment, honestly. We don't have, because I don't think the men before us had all that charisma back in the 50s and 60s. They weren't charismatic. They weren't, you know what I mean? They were normal dudes, got up, went to work, came home. I think what we lost is the assignment. Finding somebody that you like enough to make it from one side of life to the next. That's why I think we get it wrong. And I don't think most men are trash. I don't think most women are trash. I think we just lost.
Yeah, see, I don't, and this is another thing I want to clarify. I'm not saying most men are trash. I'm saying that I feel like most men, for one, are not leaders. For one, let's throw that out there. Even though we throw that word around a lot. Leadership. Most of these niggas is followers in every aspect of their life, whether it's with a woman, whether it's with a man. Other people dictate the way you move, and then you get in a relationship and you think that you could just mask it because you, again, have money or whatever the case may be. But again, I don't necessarily think it's lack of knowledge. I think men know what we need to do within these relationships to make them work, but I think a lot of men just refuse to do the things because, for one, we're not comfortable doing it, or for one, we don't trust the woman that we're in a relationship with in terms of being vulnerable, in terms of trying to connect with her from an emotional perspective, because that's the stuff that's going to make the relationship last long term. It's that connection. And a lot of dudes don't have that. You literally have a lot of dudes come with these panels and say, look, man, I'm the man. She gonna do what I say. She my helpmate. She this, she that. You see what I'm saying? But again, like, not giving that woman her proper respect, because if that was just the case, what are you even doing in a relationship with that type of woman anyway? Like, you should be in a woman where you could take counsel from her. You should be in a woman where her opinion matters. You should be in a relationship with a woman who could check you and hold you accountable. If you bring up your woman checking a man in a lot of these places, these niggas look at you like you got something written across your forehead. Check me. Ain't no woman gonna check me. I'm the leader. I'm this. I'm that. But that's the same type of shit that make the relationship end. Because what you do is you alienate the woman. And you make her feel like her contribution to this shit is not important. So again, I don't think it's lack of knowledge. I don't think it's we don't know how. I think a lot of niggas just don't want to do in terms of doing what it takes to make the relationship work. In terms of what worked in 1950, 40, 30, that shit is irrelevant. We in 2023. We are in a totally new time. Women out here with jobs, women out here working, women don't like they livelihoods don't depend on a man. So the same thing that worked 60 years ago, we can't expect that to work today. We in different times. But again, if you are who you say you are, you should be able to be versatile. You should be able to adapt. And again, that's not saying be less of a man. That's just saying understanding the new rules of this game. It's just like in basketball. 30 years ago, hand checking was perfectly allowed. You should slap the shit out of people on all type of shit you can get away with on defense that you can't get away with today. So what do? Oh shit, I ain't playing basketball no more. I'm done. No, you adapt to the rules in order to be the best in the game. But a lot of dudes don't want to put that work in to do it. Again, they try to say, forget that. I'm just going to make the money. And the money is going to mask everything. And then they go make the money and they find out quickly that don't fix stuff. So again, it's work to do on both sides, sure. But again, if we are leaders, that means that we dictate the way shit runs. You can't be a leader and then complain about your following not doing what it is that, or doing some shit that's outside of the game plan. A lot of the reasons they feel empowered to do that is because a lot of us wasn't doing our damn job to begin with. A lot of dudes not in the household, a lot of women growing up with single mothers and shit like that, getting these women pregnant and doing all type of shit. Men did that, going to jail for drugs, 80s, Black Panthers and all that shit. Like we had perfect situations going, but leadership lacked somewhere. It dropped somewhere, and that created the women that we have today. So again, if we are leaders, then we are in charge of changing that. Or we could just say we're not leaders, we're equal. And then I have no argument to nothing that these dudes say. If you admit that I'm not a leader, we on the same level, we have the same capabilities, then women deserve just as much blame as we do for the state of society. But men don't say that. And that's my issue.
So, and I'm in agreement with you because I agree. The game has changed. And I'm one of those people that will come out and say, hey, look, the game has changed. Just like I'm not going to put it all on men to have to adjust to this game. It is what it is today. So with that being said, that means that men and women have to adjust to the new rules. You can't go out there and I always say this, I tell people this all the time. Hypergamy is obsolete at this point because you do not get to go out there and continue to make more and more money and take up the resources in this on this planet on your own and bring it into yourself, but then go out there and say, well, I still got to seek somebody that make more than me. You don't get to do that. The game has changed. So I'm with you on that, but I guess that's the reason why I'm at odds with you, Trill, is because I will say that I'm 100% in belief of that. Hey, you don't get to come out here and demand more money, demand higher positions, demand more out of the world that goes directly to you, not vicariously through a man, and then say, well, I still seek for a man to be this, and this. Because I had a conversation with Trev a few weeks ago when I asked him, I said, you don't think that a relationship can run on a partnership? Because I believe that it can. I believe that we have no choice but to figure that out, because other than that, there's going to be a lot of relationships that fail because of the very thing that Trill was talking about. A lot of men come into these spaces and say, well, I'm still the leader. I still demand to be the leader. You can't demand that, and she pays half the bills. It's hard to get a woman to do that. But on the flip side, I have to tell women,
wait. So hold on. So are we saying that if shared bills and she pays 50% of whatever, that the man can't be the leader?
No, what I'm saying is that at that point, you have to view relationships differently, because women that automatically gives her decision-making power. Because very rare are you going to be able to get a person that goes out and make money in their lives, especially on their own, and then they come into a relationship and then they have to relinquish all decision-making over their money. That's a very hard pill to swallow.
So
that's just me speaking from
a question on that. So, like, if you would say percentage, like 60% makes him the leader, 75%, 80%, 90%, what percentage makes him the leader?
I will say this, and I'm gonna use this as an example, right? I had a guy, right? One of my clients, I think he makes almost $200,000 a year, right? He got his own truck. He finally got his own truck. He makes $200,000 a year. And he was having a problem with his wife because she was spending money. And I was like, I'm like, man, so you know what I mean? Your wife makes money? He was like, yeah. I was like, how much does she make? She makes $50,000 a year. I said, okay. And he was what he wanted to do was control how her money was spent and try to reel her in and use her money for the things that he wanted to use her money for. And he started telling me how that started creating friction within their relationship. And I was like, hey, look, it's going to be hard to have a woman that go out there and work and make her own money, regardless of how much you may make more than her, and tell her that she can't spend her money.
So here's what I'm getting to. Like, money doesn't make you the leader. That's what I'm saying. So even if she has to contribute to some degree, if she views you as a leader because you're taking care of something else, and you have proven by the way that you conduct yourself, by the way you lead and protect her, by the way that you love her and your kids, the money itself doesn't make you a leader. The reality is most people fall in hard times. So even if you the man and you up today, something can happen. And this has been the case for so many men where they're not making the income that they used to make anymore. And then the wife has to step up and pay the bills, right? But that doesn't mean because he's hit a patch in his life that he's no longer the leader. It just means he's not making the money. I'm saying that to say, if men tie most of their identity for leadership with how much they earn, they'll never feel confident. Because what's the number? How many dollars does it take for you to feel confident as a leader? Because inflation is going to keep going up. If you got kids, the price of education is going to go up. The cost of food is going to go up. And what I'm just saying is we have to, in some ways, divorce ourselves from thinking that the more money you make, the more of a leader you are. And to scale that back in, women have to understand that just because you work and you earn money doesn't change the natural order of relationships. If you're with the man and he's the leader, he's got to be that leader, period.
But I think what he's trying to say is not necessarily that the man is not the leader, is that the leadership style has to adapt to the current situation. You can't come in the relationship, your woman is paying half of the bills, and you expecting to be a traditional leader like a man was 70 years ago. You are not that. You now have to embark on some of the things that was her duties back in the day. Like, if y'all partners and y'all 50-50 in this thing, then that means 50-50 all the way around. That means 50-50 finances, 50-50 house duties, 50-50 raising the kids, 50-50 doing homework, all of that. Like that's what he's saying. The leadership style has to adapt. But a lot of men feel like I could expect my woman to come in here and contribute half of the money, but hell no, I got say over everything like I would in 1920. But again, you don't make 1920 contribution to the relationship. So you have to adapt those expectations. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. That's basically what I'm saying, Sir Hill. Is that given today's time, it has to be a change in the way that we look at relationships, because you can't look at relationship and I get what you're saying, because if you talk about it from a biblical standpoint and all of that, there's a hierarchy, right? But the problem today is that hierarchy, you know what, I'm not gonna get into that. Trill basically narrowed home what I was alluding to. I ain't gonna.
Well, I want to talk about the hierarchy just a little bit, though, because what it says in the Bible, because it's about the cycle between respect and love, and the whole point of that cycle is it's based off of responsibility, and the responsibility for most of history was mostly on the man. So the man.
That's why I was gonna go with that.
And the cycle works between slave and the owner, or say even a business owner and his employee, or a child and their parent. Think about it. If my child, if I tell my child you need to go to the bedroom right now, she has to respect me and go do that. Like she has to listen to what I said, okay, and go do that. But if she's crying and saying I need water, I need milk, it's my responsibility to supply that to her. But to me, it's the same in a relationship. It's just that dynamic gets thrown off, and the women's head still wants it to be that way. But whenever she's making more of the money and she has more responsibility on her, it's like this whole little confusion happens in both people's heads, because we're naturally hardwired for the responsibility to be on the man. Like, I was thinking about it with my girl, and it's like anytime she asks me for anything, I immediately go get, like, like I went to her in the room the other day or earlier today, and she was like, "Hey, I want a water. Can you grab me one?" I went and got her a water, and I brought it back to her. And it's like, I do that. I do whatever she asks for in a moment, but in return, I don't have to ask her to cook dinner. I don't have to ask her to make sure the laundry is done. Like, this shit's already all done. And in return, I will supply her of anything that she needs when she asks for it. My job, I have to constantly work. I think the best relationships are both people constantly working for each other. And I have to constantly work, but in return, I don't ever have to ask anything of her. And I think that's the cycle that how it's supposed to be. And I really feel comfortable in it like that.
All right, I want to go ahead and slide this last topic in. Sure, you gonna stick around? All right. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the conversation. We know the ladies like the meat. Ow! With that being said, here we go. A real man is not going to be ruled by a woman. Let me go ahead and play this clip.
Older lady tell me she's, I think, just past 40, and her husband, I think, is like in his late 30s, like so maybe like 41 and 39. They've been married for a while. I was talking with her about some problems we were having in our marriage, and she said, "Joyce, what it sounds like to me is that your issue is that you are married to a real man, and a real man is not going to be ruled by a woman." And that hit me like a ton of bricks, and it immediately came to my mind when I was reading this excerpt. When she says, don't go down the path of expressing criticism, disapproval, and an ultimate lack of acceptance for your husband because it may cause rebellion, she's telling the truth. A real man is not going to allow himself to be a pushover to the woman he has chosen.
All right, let me go ahead and dive into it. Trev, I was gonna go to you first. I don't know if you're there. I know you've been kind of quiet. I'll go to Cloud. Let me go to you there.
Yeah. Y'all hear me good? All right. I completely agree, for the most part with what she's saying, as far as like a real man isn't going to defer to what his woman wants. And I think that bleeds over a lot into the conversation we were having about leadership. I think, unfortunately, in modern society, I think because women can achieve certain things, I think that when men are looking at women, a lot of times it's like they're looking in the mirror. They're seeing someone who's also making money, also has ambition, and because of that, they don't know what they're dealing with. Like, they don't know how to deal with it. And so I definitely feel as though, like, yeah, a man doesn't want to be ruled by his woman at all. I agree with her.
All right, go ahead, Trev.
Yeah, I feel like that would be completely dysfunctional for me. Any type of man who feels comfortable being led by a woman, that to me it just seems weird. It doesn't mean that the woman doesn't have a say. Of course, you seek counsel in your woman, you respect what she says, but ultimately you make that final decision. It is what it is. A man is supposed to be the one that's responsible, and I feel like that's just part of it. But protection and everything else, you are the one who's supposed to be the authority, if you will, because women are capable of leading in situations, but as far as a relationship is concerned, I disagree with it. I think that the man is responsible for his wife, for his family, for everything. And, responsibility and authority hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So that's how I feel about it.
All right, I'm gonna go to Trail. What are your thoughts about it? A real man is not gonna be ruled by a woman.
Yeah, I mean, it ain't no question about that. I mean, again, a real man coming in, man, it's already infrastructure set up. It's already how we running this thing. You understand how, again, what you bring to the table is extra. It's excess. And again, as a man, you should choose a woman who understands that. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of dudes make. They be picking women based on looks or picking women based on shit like that. And then that woman get into the relationship and she got a whole lot of trauma. She got a whole lot of shit that she done came from. And then she tried that kind of bleeds on that man. But I think, again, it's on the man to pick a woman who's capable of understanding what her role is going to be when she come into this relationship. So as a man, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, I don't even think the right woman even questions that. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not saying she's going to be no mute or nothing like that. Because, again, if she a mute, it ain't no point in being with her. Her counsel has to be valuable. But in terms of ruling the relationship, ruling a man shouldn't be ruled by nobody but his damn self. Nobody. Not her, not no man, not nobody else. Himself is what should be ruling in terms of him. So if that dynamic is off in any way, I mean, that woman not gonna respect you. It ain't no woman that's coming into a relationship and she got to make all the decisions and she gonna respect you as a man. That's not gonna happen. So again, ruler, leadership, things of that nature, all of that shit is tied to liability. All of that is tied to who has the most investment. Even the whole partner dynamic. We definitely partners. But in an ideal situation, the man takes on more risk. That's just like us starting a business. I put in 20, Sweeney put in 30,000, Purple Pill put in 50,000. We put in different amounts. We still partners, sure, but we all hold different risks. We all hold different weight in this relationship. And I think that's the way that a relationship should run. We all have say at the board meeting, sure. But Purple Pill put in 50,000. So he taking on the most risk. That makes him the leader. A relationship should work the same way. And if it don't, it ain't going to last because women don't respect the man that they have to lead.
All right. Sir Hill.
I think that's a really good point. So yes, a real man's not going to be ruled by a woman, but I like what Trill said, and I agree that doesn't start with the woman. That's like period in his life. He has a level of autonomy and self-control and desire, and he would be willing to let go of certain stuff to maintain his own sense of independence. That's just how a man is, and then he extends that in his relationship. So, right, he's not. The only issue that I see with this, though, is while this is how it is supposed to be, the truth is, if a man has been raised by a mother and he's been cultured to follow, and then he's been taught to happy wife, happy life, then this is why I could see a conflict in a man's perspective about what a real man is. Because if you're taught that a real man, goes to work, pays his bills, I'll give you guys a real example. A pastor told me this. He said, happy wife, happy life. You go to work, make the money, and your job is to give your wife whatever she wants. That was it. That was what being a man was. And let me tell you something, when I looked at these men, they looked like some of the most miserable, unhappy men. And here's the kicker. Those guys was not clapping any cheeks. Right. So I say that to say that if a man has been raised to believe that just go work, and he thinks leading is buying her stuff and paying the bills, and these guys are affluent presidents of banks. Like, this is where that conflict of identity can happen at, because he's attaching his masculinity to him doing whatever his wife wants. And what I found out is sometimes your wife wants you to be able to tell the babe, no, we ain't doing that. I got some other plans. It's being able to take that lead and have a goal or a vision that she can follow. So to answer the question, it is absolutely correct. A real man is not going to be ruled by a woman. And men who haven't had men to teach them this got to do some deep programming so that they don't take that concept that you just buy your wife and you're going to make her happy, because money won't make her happy alone. Leadership will.
All right, go ahead, Sweeney.
My bad, man. I'm thrown off by this person in the damn chat. No, I agree. I don't think any man, I think that's naturally no man is willing to be led or ruled over. You know what I mean? At least by their women. Because men are definitely ruled over. There's definitely decisions that's made for men in this world. That's why we have a governing body. You know what I mean? You have a boss at work. You know what I mean? You have situations where you have to listen to other men and things like that. But I think when we talk about personal relationships, we have seen time and time again men buck against the system. You know what I mean? If he has a woman that thinks that she can rule over him. For example, there was a video I seen on YouTube earlier today, and it was talking about, and the guy, what the hell is the name of the Manosphere Highlights Daily, right? And he was talking about this TV show that came out on Netflix, and they were talking about the dynamics between the relationship where the woman was making about 200-some thousand a year, and he became a stay-at-home dad. And he began to talk about how the respect for him changed the moment he stopped working and she started making all the money. And what she started to recognize was that he wasn't putting up with it anymore. So he started checking her at every step of the way. Well, and that started creating a lot of problems within their relationship, because as long as he didn't say shit and she could spend the money however she wanted to spend it and she can do whatever she wanted to do, she was cool. It wasn't until he started to say, hey, look, no, I don't like being treated this way. Look, you know what I mean? You don't get to talk to me in the old kind of way. You don't get to just make decisions for me in the old kind of way, because men don't tend to like to be ruled by their women in relationships like that. So
yeah, I don't even feel like it's natural. That's not even natural for men to be under a woman's leadership. That's outrageous. Like, no man should rest comfortable knowing that he has a woman running his life. That's absurd. As a man, what type of dude feels like he should stay at home, like, and be domesticated while your woman is out there getting it? That's unnatural. You shouldn't even feel cool doing that. That's crazy to me. That's your job. Your two primary functions, in my opinion, are provisioning, providing. Those are the two most important. There's many other characteristics you need to be a complete man, but as far as when women are seeking a dude in a relationship, those are the two things that they value the most. And if you have her playing your role, yeah, you're gonna be playing her role. And that's exactly what happened to him. He became her bitch.
But in that dynamic though, he wasn't a bitch until she started trying to treat him like one. You know what I mean? He was all good, like him being a stay-at-home dad. He had no problem with it up until she started treating him a certain type of way. And that's where the buck stopped. He was like, you're not going to treat me like no bitch in this relationship. I'm not going for that. And that's where they had a problem.
Yeah, but when she seen him as a bitch as soon as he agreed to that new arrangement. Because as a man, your livelihood shouldn't be tied to nobody but you, ever. I don't give a damn. My woman can hit the lottery tomorrow. I'm still gonna be partying. I'm still gonna be trying to make
Still-
money. I'm still gonna be doing my shit.
I'm still gonna be behind that chair, bro. I'm still okay.
Still, bro. Like it's again, like as a man, like that's what we was put on this earth to do is build. Put on this earth to do is create. You understand me? Like I can't sit on my ass and get handed a allowance as a grown ass man. Like that is crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? So for him to even agree to that speaks volumes to the type of dude he is, bro.
What
Like
type of man he is?
hell no.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what we talked about respect before, he can't get that back. Once you lose respect, it doesn't come back. Women don't lose respect and then regain it. That's not how it goes. Once it's out the it's impossible to get back.
All right, let me get to Purple Pill. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, just telling the truth here. Like, women don't know what they want. Like, they really don't know what they want. The second they get what they want, the second they realize they didn't really know what the fuck they wanted. They need a man to tell them what they need. They need a man to be the leader. They need that real man. Like, the second they're in a relationship, when they're not a real man, when the relationship's in their frame, like as soon as they get everything they want, they just end up cheating or they just hate the guy. And so like the best relationships are definitely always in the man's frame. A real man's never going to let the woman rule. The way I kind of see it is like with my relationship, like if I go to the grocery store, to me, there's only one person that can drive the car. You know, there's only one person, you know, in the driver's seat. And I would say I'm 51% for most things. But say like she got pregnant, I'm not going to be the 51% in control of if she keeps the baby or not. That's her womb, like that's all hers. So so I'm going to have 49% say, but since it's her womb, I can't force her to get rid of the baby, or I can't force her to have the baby. So she would have control in that. But say we go to the grocery store, once again, I'll give her 51% on that because she's better at picking groceries than me. I don't know which meats are the best ones to buy for the price or whatever. I don't cook. So I'm going to have the driver's seat, though, for most of the big issues or most of the big decisions that need to be made. But you definitely need to be able to give your woman the ability to have control over certain things that are her expertise because that's what she does in the household. And it's not like the guy is the leader all the fucking time. You're just the one driving the car most of the time. It's just, but it's not all the time. It's just most of the time, in my opinion.
All right. Anybody else want to chime in on this? I know it's kind of late on this. Any final thoughts?
I guess I'll say something else. I pretty much agree with most of what everyone's saying, but I do have like an issue with this idea of leadership that I feel as though we have this idea of provisioning. It's tied to like what you build, and I feel as though often the vision is very much discounted as a part of provisioning. And it's like we always talk about like, oh well, if she's making bread, then we can't just say that she shouldn't have a say. But like when you look at Apple, for example, Steve was the visionary behind the brand, but he wasn't the financier. There's venture capitalists and people like that who are responsible for the finances, but Steve Jobs was the person who was the vision. So I feel as though we look at provisioning as like, oh, well, he didn't provide the money, so he can't act like he's the leader. But if he's providing the idea and the seed that creates the foundation of everything, then he's responsible for the provision and should get that level of respect.
See, Clark, the only issue with that is, man, is that I mean you can't have provision without money. Don't get me wrong, like money is not the end all be all, but it's definitely an important factor because without the money, she don't give a damn what you're saying. That's just like us with women. Like you can have a woman who has an amazing personality, right? Fun to be around. Like she's a cool person. Sex is good. All of that different stuff. Like we have great conversations. But if she's ugly, none of that shit is gonna matter, right? Let's just put it on the table. You understand? So they see money the same way we see looks. It's important. It's not the end all be all, but you can't have provision without no money. Not only is the woman not gonna respect you, but men not gonna respect you either. Because again, which is the issue with like a lot of older dudes and stuff that be trying to get young dudes game. They be like, damn, the young dudes ain't really listening to me. I'm telling them what they supposed to be doing, but they ain't listening to me. You know what young dudes listen to? Success. You could be telling them the best advice in the world, But if you walk into work every day, it ain't gonna mean nothing compared to that dude who pull up driving that Benz and say, "Hey, young nigga, this what you do this, you do that, blah, and you could, you know what I'm saying, get here. This how you be successful." They gonna listen to that with open ears. You see what I'm saying? So again, money not the end all be all, but we can't sit here and act like provision can happen without it. That just ain't gonna happen.
No, I agree with what you're saying to an extent, but all right, like that dude who's driving a Benz could be driving that Benz because he's gay for pay. Like that, he could be driving that Benz because he's getting his cheeks bust open on camera. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, now is he really the person that should be provisioning? So it's like I feel as though we talk about provisions in modern, after feminism, provisioning has been associated with financial gain or income. But what I'm just trying to say is that provisioning is much more than that. That's why I use the example of Steve Jobs, because Steve Jobs is responsible for the entire vision of Apple. It's pro-vision, right? He's responsible for the vision of Apple without being responsible for the finances of Apple. He's not the person who put every dollar up to make Apple what it is, but he's still the founder and the provisioner of Apple. So I feel like sometimes we overlook that a leader, part of a leader's job could literally just be finding talent. Part of a leader's job is giving instructions. So I don't have to be the smartest person in the room to be a leader. I don't have to be the person who brings in the money. I have to be the person who has the vision to be able to utilize all the people on the team the proper way, and the vision to be able to bring all the concepts, ideas together in a way so that what I'm building can provide for everybody that's on the team. But it's not necessary for me to necessarily have money. And I feel as though what's happening in modern society is women are getting that bag now. And so a lot of men are allowing them to feel as though they're the same as us, as if they have that same spark in us as that God gave us, and they don't. That's the thing. Like, provisioning is something that's inherent in men in their creation, and I feel like we allow these statistics, having money, having a home, working, to be like that's what provisioning is. It's not. Those are the results of provisioning. Having money is the results of a man with vision. Having a home, having an organized life is the results of provision, but that's not what the actual provisioning is. And I feel like that's where we get things confused nowadays. We focusing on what the provision creates instead of what the actual provision is.
Big Cloud, I got a question. If a girl came to you and said, "Do you have a vision? And if I bet on you right now, your vision is 100% going to be successful," could you say yes to that?
I can't say that any vision is going to be 100% successful, but I could say she could bet on me. Yeah.
But you're asking women to bet on men. Like, you're asking them to completely bet on them, and like they don't have the discernment ability to, one, just know which guys are the best to bet on, and then also to predict the future. So like what you're asking women to do is extremely risky. You know how many times women are like, "I'm going to bet on this guy. I think he has a good vision," but he's actually just a loser. And like that happens all the time.
I'm not saying that they should just bet on nothing. All I'm saying is that a lot of women today, what they're betting on when they're dealing with men is they're betting on the man based off of his finances only, based off of what his provisioning skills provide. But I'm saying that they should also take into account other things, such as his character, such as his work ethic. Like many of those things, such as his social skills, many of those things go into his leadership ability a lot more than his money does. Steve Jobs was broke at one time, and there was the woman who's with him now, I believe, was with him when he was broke, and she had to have seen a vision to be able to realize, hey, you know what, this man is going to be Steve Jobs one day. You know what I'm saying? He's not Steve Jobs now, but he's gonna be that, and she has to be able to trust in his vision for him to even to become that. If she was sitting around saying, well, where's your Apple? Apple would have never been built, because he would have never had the support from a woman that he needed to build Apple. You get what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. I feel like as men, we have to also stop subscribing to the idea that finances is what makes us a provider, because like I think Sweeney said it earlier, like a lot of men now will now not have confidence because, oh, I don't have the money, so that means I'm not a real man, and the vision that I have in my mind is not worth bringing to life because I don't have nothing to show for it. And that's not true. That vision that you have in your mind is worth something, and it's worth pursuing, whether you got something to show for it or not. You get what I'm saying? Because you might have something to show for it later, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be working and investing into what you believe in. And that doesn't mean that a woman shouldn't believe in you. You know what I'm saying? It really depends on your ability to communicate your thoughts and let her know, hey, this is my vision, this is what I want to do, and give her the opportunity to support it. But I feel as though you shouldn't just be like, oh, well, she getting money now, so I'm gonna let her make some of the decisions. No, if you have a vision and you standing strong on it, then baby, this is how we applying your money to this vision, because I'm still leading this ship, even though you might be bringing in the finances for it right now, whatever the case is. The same way as Steve Jobs might say to the venture capitalists, yeah, that's great that you 20 billion, but we're making the iPad. That's cool. You could. I don't care about how much money you put in. This is the future of Apple, and this is what we're building. You get what I'm saying?
Well, that's all right. Well, one, Steve Jobs wasn't broke. He didn't start off broke. In order for him to do what he did, it required him to have money. You know what I mean? As far as him being able to work and tinker with computers during a period in time where computers were worth $8,000-$9,000 a pop, so he wasn't really broke. He definitely came from money, and he came from. But then also, Steve Jobs did have to answer to someone regarding what he made, how it was made. You know what I mean? The iPad, you know what I mean? He had to listen to his investors and things like that and say, oh, well, we don't want to put this into the iPad because it costs XYZ. But to your point though, Clout, and this is to Purple Pill and Trill, the average man, men on average out earn women, right? Bar none, no matter what tax bracket you in, whatever. Let's say, for the sake of argument, the woman who makes $100,000 a year, right, doesn't want to deal with a man that makes $50,000 because she doesn't want to deal. She's hypergamous. I often find myself asking them the question, and I asked this woman the question on TikTok. I ask them all the time. So, what was the problem with the guy? Why can't you find a guy that makes your money? Because they out there, because there are more men that make that money than women. And you want to know one of the number one answers I've always gotten? I didn't like his mindset. And every time I go there, and then I would follow up and say, well, what was that mindset actually? Only one person answered the question. The rest of them hid away from the answer. Only one person answered it. And the mindset was basically, I didn't want to be a stay-at-home wife or have to listen to him or anything. I didn't want to lose myself being with him. And he wouldn't accept for me to be able to he wanted a wife, the traditional wife, and she didn't like that mindset. So even though you're saying that you don't want to deal with a broke man, you also cannot deal with a man that makes your money or on your level because you don't know how to yield to that type of man. So, and that's the reason why I kind of like to I tend to put the responsibility on women, because while times have changed, men are still expected to remain in their traditional role while having to deal with women that don't want to be traditional. And I don't have no problem with women not wanting to be traditional, but you cannot expect a man to be traditional on the opposite end. Otherwise, you're going to have a conundrum on your hands.
Yeah. So if you're a woman and you just don't have, which most do, you're pretty much going to price yourself out, because the more money you make, the smaller the pool of available candidates that make more money than you exist. So you're creating your own problem. So you could go ahead and be independent. And then, not to mention, like you're saying, them type of dudes don't appreciate a woman who's making money. They want somebody who's going to pour into them because they don't need you to make money. So why would they go ahead and deal with this woman over here who's making money, and then she wants to start calling shots and being a boss babe, whatever you want to call it, and then bringing that attitude to me when I could simply get somebody who doesn't have the resources, who would much more appreciate what it is that I can provide you.
And like I said, that's the number one problem we have, is that you have times changing, but you don't have the circumstances that we live in right now are changing way faster than our minds are willing to change. You know what I mean? So we as humans aren't evolving, but our circumstances are. And that's the part that's the hump that we haven't been able to get over in society. There's a lot of people that have gotten over that hump, because the reality is majority of people don't make that kind of money. And most people work in two income households and things like that. But the ones that are failing at relationships that we see constantly in these YouTube streets and these social media streets, when you ask them questions 3 levels deep, it always comes down to that they don't know how to adjust to their reality.
Well, we're going to have to very soon.
Everybody's scared, bro. I mean, even these women that y'all talking about, the women making out the 100,000, 200,000, the women terrified. because a lot of what drove them to make that money was fear of not being broke. A lot of them grew up broke. A lot of them grew up with no father figure or nobody to like guide them. So it's like, damn, like I sat there and watched my mama cycle through men who took advantage of her because she wasn't what she needed to be, and they was making the money and things of that nature. So I'm seeing all this as a young girl, and when I get out there, I'm not gonna be, dictated to like that. I'm gonna work my ass off to go out there and get my degree, go out there and make my money. But again, it was done out of fear. So that's why a lot of women, even that make a lot of money, still want a man who make more money than them because they fear going back to being broke. They don't want to go back to being broke. So I mean, I understand the ideology, but I think at the end of the day, there are some men who value ambition, who make a lot of money. I'm one of them. Like my old lady, I would never tell her, hey, nah, I need you to just stop work. I need you to just stay home and just, because that's not who she is. She gets her fulfillment from going out there and accomplishing things and getting degrees and, elevating her job and shit like that. And I ain't gonna lie, that I love to see it because it keep me motivated. It's like, okay, I need to make sure I stay on my shit. And I'm doing pretty well. You see what I'm saying? But I say that to say it's a lot of men who do value that. But I think those women have a lot of reprogramming to do because again, the mindset that got them there oftentimes is the same reason that a crash of relationship when they get into it. You see what I'm saying? But there are men out there who value that. They just got to be patient. It's just like women who don't make $200,000. They still want a man making 100,000, 200, 300,000, and that's cool. But you got to be patient because it's like Sweeney said, and he's right. Most people don't make that. Most people making 40, 50, and shit below that if we're gonna be real. But somewhere around there. So, again, what people come on these platforms and say, and what people come on social media and say, all of that shit sounds great. But at the end of the day, if they meet somebody that they in love with, who they intrigued with, that man ain't got to be making 150,000, 200,000. Evidence of that is the relationships that we see around us. Most people in these relationships that are successful that we see around us are not making that much goddamn money. But when they come on here, they get to talking about preferences. Having a preference is cool, but you got to be realistic in terms of the expectation of you actually getting it. And I think just like you said, times evolve and it's kind of smacking people in the face with that reality. They ain't got no choice because you shooting after this, and now you're getting 35, 36, 38 years old. Now it's like, damn, I would like that, but I can't find that. So now I'm getting smacked in the face with reality. I may have to settle for a motherfucker that's making 70 or 65. And oftentimes they'll get with that man and he fuck around and be the perfect dude for them. And they go off and be happy. But if we go off what people say their preferences are, shit, it's a lost cause, man. Most
You know
people
what's
say they preference.
you know what's crazy, Trill? You want to know one thing that I don't see? Who do we normally see out here complaining about the cost of living, the cost of rent, the cost of all these things? Most of the time it's single people. You don't hear married couples out here complaining because, especially today, because they got the two incomes to be able to do it. She make her little 45, he make his 60, and they make enough money to get from one side of life to the next. You don't hear married couples complaining about the cost of living, but I do see a lot of single people out here complaining about the cost of rent. It's not today in today's time. It's not meant for you to go it alone. Unless you make that type of money, it's not meant for you to go it alone. You have no choice but to partner with somebody. And if you don't, there's a life at the end of that hey, look, the chances of you winding up on the street is very high. We're seeing it. People getting evicted every day. Section 8 can't support all of y'all. You got people who don't even want Section 8 to come into their neighborhoods.
That's true. And it's only going to get worse, though, man. If you're paying attention to what's going on in the economy, it's crazy. Interest rates crazy right now. Cost of living is going up. Inflation is bad. Repo's up 14% now. Like, it's a wrap. It's already going down. Housing crisis. And a lot of this, people are starting to feel it. And a lot of industries are going away, right? A lot of women, they deal with, people mostly in their jobs. A lot of those jobs are going away, though. A lot of industries are getting taken over by AI, or companies just having to downsize, companies collapsing. So it's about to be real. If you can't get your hands together and put something together, then there's probably not going to be much use for you in the next few years. You have autonomy going on right now. Like, a lot of these people who drive, their job's going to be out of here within the next decade. They're, FedEx is using it, UPS, they're going to be using 18 wheelers with nobody on it. Just, it's all autonomous. So we already at what level 5 autonomy, so you can't really do nothing. A lot of stuff is going to be going away. A lot of jobs, it's only going to get harder. So that might actually help us to learn different ways to respect somebody, because ain't nobody gonna have no money. A lot of jobs, we're about to be gutted. The middle class is about to be gutted, like straight up. You're gonna have people who really get in it, the people that are in charge of this and have these bigger corporations and supplying essentials, and then you're gonna have the very bottom, and that's it.
I'm gonna tell you
All
this,
of us,
though, Trev, if that was to happen, because I think one day I seen Jay-Z say this, right? He said, "What's better than what's better than 2 billionaires?" Right? And he was referring to himself. And somebody responded, and she said, "A robust middle class. That's what's better than a billionaire." And I'm gonna tell you this right now: if we lose our middle class, this country is over. It's
there's
over.
no doubt about that.
Like there is no
We're going
future
right to
beyond
third
that.
world. We're going right to third world. That's what we're looking at.
All right, let me get to these super chats, man, so we get up out of here. JB 499 says, on the balance of probabilities, humans don't change drastically. Keyword drastically. Fatness, risk mitigation, and it works. Arnold $5 says, since the beginning of time, there has always been more followers than leaders. That shows how it's supposed to be. And lastly, Ali says, the world leader is weaponized against men. Men just asking for women of peace. Women are demanding for conditions and everything but a good man. We are pandering to women, knowing they made it clear having a man isn't enough. I want to thank the people that has contributed tonight. I want to thank you guys for hanging out. Know it's late. Sweeney, Trev, Clout, Trill, Purple Pill, and shout out to everybody that was on the panel earlier that had to leave. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you just now tuning in, you missed a good one, so catch the replay. All right, fellas, appreciate you guys. Y'all be safe. Rest of the night, get y'all some sleep, and catch us next time.